Astraeos is the most recent map to hit Ark, this time in the form of a mod map turned official. And yes, the map is only about a third of the way complete at the moment, but that is not going to stop me from milking a video out of it. Jokes aside though, the map is absolutely massive, even in its incomplete state. So I'm marooning myself for 100 days on the virtual beaches of Greece, building a small Greek village, and attempting to take down both of the map's bosses, Though the Widowmaker and Medusa. So get your beach towels and sunscreen ready, and let's get into it. I would choose to spawn into one of the map's southernmost beaches on the main island of Corinthos, where I would awaken to very peaceful surroundings. And after playing the last 3 DLC maps, this honestly felt a bit weird.
Look at that. There's nothing killing us right away. This is very peaceful. My goodness. It's just so peaceful. Where are we even at? Okay, we're at the very tip. We're just getting the tip so far.
That's what she said.
So with no danger in sight, I went straight to picking bushes for fiber, fisting a tree for some wood and thatch, and used those materials to make myself a stone pick, hatchet, and a few trusty spears. It wouldn't take me long to find my first victim of this playthrough in the form of a Dilophosaur.
Yeah, buddy, try to spit on that. Spit on that, punk.
Who I would then harvest for its hide. Then, fresh off my victory over the Dillo, I spotted 2 extra thick moss chops chonking all along the beach, who I thought would make for some amazing tames mere minutes into the playthrough.
Rare mushroom, of course, dude. They always, what the frick? Oh, there's another one. Always want to flip in rare mushroom or rare flower when I'm first starting off. Rare mushroom, golly, man.
So instead of taming those, I went back to the basic tasks like crafting a slingshot, as well as my first set of cloth armor, which I of course would skin with the Astraeos armor skin mod.
There we go. Look at us. Heck yeah, brother.
Now looking like a true Greek hoplite, I spotted an Ichthyornis patrolling the skies above the beach and decided to test out my spear throwing skills. Unfortunately, my Greek warrior cosplay is about as fake as my wife's orgasms, and so instead I settled for an easier to hit dodo bird whose hide I would use to craft my first few bolas. Then as I proceeded further up the beach, I spotted another moss chops, and this fella wanted a simple tintaberry for his first feed. While we wait on him to get hungry again, let me tell you about a game that I've been unable to put down recently. One of my favorite things about this game is the wide variety of environments and enemies you fight. I'm a sucker for games that make each new challenge feel unique, and this game does that with each new chapter of the campaign. And let me tell you, there has never been a better time to get hooked on this game than right now. They are currently celebrating their 6th anniversary of the game and hooking up new players with a ton of giveaways, as well as making all sorts of quality of life changes to the game, eliminating the grind and making upgrading your hero easier than ever. And if you download the game right now using the link in my description or by simply scanning the QR code on your screen, you will get an incredible birthday package to start you off. I'm not sure if they know you're supposed to receive gifts on your birthday, but they've chosen to give them away, and I'm not complaining. Download using my link and you will receive the epic hero Zargala for free, along with other goodies that come to a total value of $60. And then once you've downloaded the game, you can choose one of 4 promo codes from the description of this video for new players to receive a legendary champion of their choice. I personally would recommend using the code Supreme6 to get Supreme Galek. He makes the perfect pairing for Zargala, as they are actually the hottest couple in Teleria. And using my code, you could be their lucky third. Just make sure you use the code first to download the game and then enter the promo code. And you might be asking, but Chips, what about me? I already played the game. Well, don't worry, we've got 4 more promo codes in the description that both new and existing players can redeem. Just make sure you redeem one of them within 24 hours. This deal won't last forever though, so get in while the party is still going, and once in game, come find me at the username ChipsYT and join my clan, the Bag of Chips. While waiting on him to become hungry again, I decided to wipe out a nearby family of dodos for more hide, including the younglings, which would give me some very important prime meat. I also checked out a nearby purple drop that had landed. Now obviously I can't quite access it yet, but I just thought the custom look they did for the theme of the map was really cool. After that, I returned to the moss shops and found out we had just what he wanted.
Cooked prime meat. Well, guess what, buddy? I got a fire already, and I just killed a baby dodo for some prime meat, so you are in luck. Welcome, Chip's Kitchen.
So I got some of that sweet dodo meat cooking up on the fire, and we had ourselves our first tame of this playthrough, Larry. Of course, I put him to work the following morning harvesting some bushes and trees, and with what we had gathered, I crafted myself a bow as well as a few arrows. Now obviously 5 was not going to be enough though, so I began gathering some more flint when I would realize that I was beginning to freeze to death.
Oh my gosh, I am dying of cold. What the heck? It's that cold here. Holy crap, okay.
So I would have to get a fire going to warm us up.
Sitting around the campfire, singing our campfire song. CAMPFIRE song.
While resting at the fire, I went ahead and crafted some more arrows, and then once the sun came up, I made my way up the nearby hill to fetch a pail of crystal. This map has metal and crystal all over most of the mountains. Unfortunately, this was not one of them. However, while up here, I would spot some raptors that could potentially become the latest edition of the Rat Pack, and so I headed back down the side of the mountain to find a good approach angle for picking them off one at a time. But as I began to make my approach, I would spot an Argentavis who had come down from the mountains to feed off of the small creatures that populate the beaches. Being the warrior that I am though, I decided to take it out for some good early XP.
Oh crap, I forgot they run. Brother, don't run that way. Don't run that way. Thank you. There we go. Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
After dealing with the Argent, I would spot a whole pack of Hyenodons who would absolutely shred Larry if I failed sneaking past them. So instead, I headed back to try going around the other side of the hill where the Ichthyornis from earlier would stop me to say hello.
Oh gosh. Get him, buddy. Get him. Heck yeah, brother. Let's go.
Unfortunately, as I began making my way around the hill, I would find this side to be even worse.
Oh no. Okay. This is not as safe as I thought it was. Oh, there's a Cerato over here. That's great.
So instead, I started setting up my initial starter pad. And if you're wondering why anyone would make their base camp this close to obvious danger, the simple answer is that, well, I'm an idiot. So brain cells barely functioning, I crafted up some mortar and pestles, made myself a comfy spot to sleep, and got down some large storage boxes. I then hunted down a nearby parasaur for its hide, which I would combine with some stone for making my first forge, and then use that to cook a small amount of metal I've gathered while farming stone. Next was a preserving bin, which combined with some spark powder would keep my food lasting a little longer. I just didn't have much to put in it yet. And then lastly, I crafted a smithy with the metalhead cooked and got that placed down before ending the day how it began, gathering berries with Larry, as I had split a bunch of meat to spoil earlier in the day while we were setting everything up. I would combine those berries and the spoiled meat to make some narcotics, and then while gathering some flint to make more arrows, I got a few more pieces of metal, which meant I had enough to smelt one more bar and craft my first metal tool. Then I used the narcotics I had crafted to make some trank arrows and went back up the hill to see if I could spot one of the raptors. I couldn't find them though, and to make things worse, the Cerato is now blocking our path further inland.
That guy will tear me up if I get even like remotely, like there's no outrunning it.
Desperate to find the raptors, I would hug the beach to the left to sneak around the Hyenodons and scaled the side of the mountain with Larry, avoiding detection by the Cerato. We made it past successfully and began climbing what remained of some old stairs when we would meet a new friend waiting to greet us at the hilltop.
It'll be...
Stop right there, criminal scum!
Oh yeah, we're out of stamina. Yeah, we're dead. Yeah, we're dead. Abandoned ship!
Apparently Larry was enough to fill its belly as it just paced back and forth at the top of the stairs, mocking me, until eventually moving off up the hill. I would return to the top of the mountain on foot to find the astral raptor had moved off to the left, and so I went right in search of a raptor of my own. It wouldn't be long before I instead spotted a sabertooth, but not really being a fan of them, I prepared a bola to take it out. I would head in slowly, stalking my kill, when I would notice he was not alone.
Multiple saber-tooths. Oh gosh, bad jump. Oh gosh.
Luckily, there was a nearby stego, and so I got both Sabertooth fighting that, picked off the first one as it was distracted, but before I could get the second one down, it finished off the stego and charged after me. I would manage to hit it with a bola though, and before long, it was down as well. Of course, this wouldn't be a Chips video if I didn't at some point need to run down the hill for water due to not having a water skin. Refreshed, I would return to the hilltop where I spotted one of the raptors. In a moment of panic, I missed multiple bolas before landing one just in time.
Oh! Oh gosh!
I would try running away from the raptors and taking shelter behind some ruins, but eventually they would find their way around and end my life. And so began the death loop as I returned to find there were actually 5 raptors. I managed to dodge through them, but with each one I dodged, it seemed another showed up. Eventually I dropped down onto my bag and managed to move it just a little bit further down the hill. I returned again to find the raptors were now just guarding my body, so my only option was to try drawing them down the cliff. I was fully prepared to die doing this, but somehow managed to escape safely into the water. I would return again the following morning to find the raptors still down by the water, and this would be my best chance to retrieve what little possessions I had. But nope, turns out one raptor was just hiding behind my death icon, and I would die again. I returned once again, and this time the raptors were chasing something up the hill, so I used the opportunity to also grab a blue drop, which had some okay loot, although a dirty pego would steal some of it. And then I would rush up the hill to retrieve my bag, now clear of raptors. Eager to still tame some, I began farming a nearby tree for thatch I would need to craft bolas when the raptors would show back up. I bolted down the hill where I would find some dodos to distract them. They must not have lasted long though, as one of the raptors came storming down the beach, still hungry for my sweaty flesh. She was all alone though, so I hit her with one of my newly crafted bolas and got her knocked out. Everyone knows that 2 raptors is better than 1, so I gathered some stone to make another bola and found the other raptor right where we left it, bolaed it, and knocked it out. And this one was also a level 135. Of course, I would need some prime meat for them, but the only thing I could find was a baby turtle.
Of all the babies, oh gosh, of all the babies to try to take out, probably could have found something a little bit easier.
Bye, have a great time.
Oh, mom's out of here. Your mom's abandoned you, kid. Yeah, this mom's definitely not, there we go. Definitely not getting Mother of the Year.
Eventually the turtle did go down. I fed the first raptor, which tamed up instantly, and then fed and tamed the second one. And once they were both up, I sent them after the neglectful turtle mommy. Back at camp, I would craft their saddles, and we named them Lursa and Beator. I had barely broken them in when I noticed a beautiful blue pteranodon, who was also a level 125, so I rushed back to quickly repair my bow, tracked it down, and got it bulled and knocked out. Luckily, I would find a family of dodos just down the beach, and so I took out the parents, and then of course the babies for their prime meat I would need to feed the pteranodon. I was still 3 levels short of making the saddle though, so I tamed a low-level Moschops who only wanted a mejoberry and named it Citrus. I then split a bunch more meat until I was slot capped and gathered a bunch more narcoberries with my new Moschops, Citrus. While doing this, I noticed the PT had finished taming, but with no saddle, I would have to have it follow me back to the pad, where I would name it Turquoise. I then began crafting narcotics with all of the meat I had spoiled and berries I had gathered, and before long I had enough levels to now unlock the Pteranodon saddle. The only problem though, I was very short on chitin, and I have not seen anything on these beaches that could give some outside of taking down trikes and turtles. So I would make a lap around the beach, taking out any turtle I could find, until late into the night while making my way up the left side of the beach, I spotted gold.
Oh, trilobite, trilobite, trilobite! Oh my gosh, yes! No, stop! I don't care if there's a Rex right there, I'm not even risking. Stop! You jerks have caused me to lose that trilobite. I'm gonna frickin' disown you. It's probably not gonna give me enough, but it'll give me a good little... Oh, what the heck? Oh, that's hilarious. I can't farm that trilobite. That's awesome. That's great. Love that for me.
Early in the next day, I would find another trilobite, and this one would give me all of the chitin I would need to get that PT saddle crafted up. And with that, we now had liftoff, which of course meant easier access to drops like this blue one. As I patrolled across the open skies, I noticed our good friend the Astral Raptor had made its way down the hill and was now getting closer and closer to my base. Better yet, there was another one on the mountainside, and one thing I've noticed on this map is the Astral variants are literally everywhere. Having wings also meant I could finally get some crystal, which I would use to immediately craft a spyglass. And while out and about, I also stopped over at some nearby metal nodes to gather metal I would need for upgrading to metal tools. While doing this, I spotted what looked like a camp down in the bay and figured I would go say hello to some of my fellow warriors. The camp seemed to be deserted though, at least in terms of humans, but they had left behind some wooden boxes, which I could break open to find the metal tools that I just gathered metal to make. So with my base somewhat established and things coming together, I headed out in search of the real trophy tame of this map, the brand new Meguana, which is new but not new because it's just a reskin of an old tame, but that old tame isn't out yet, so it's new. On the way, I would spot a blue drop with a wyvern egg on it and had to ask the question.
No way, no shot am I able to grab this thing. Okay, thankfully. I was like, dude, if I can pick up that wyvern egg, that's ridiculous.
I also hit up a purple drop, which would have an ascendant saddle for my Pteranodon. After playing Extinction with no loot drops, you could say I might have become a bit of a loot goblin this playthrough. And after grabbing that, I just spent the rest of the day searching for Meguana with no luck. The search continued into the next day, but with no luck finding one, I was mostly just grabbing drops, except for this yellow drop who apparently tagged along with my father to get the milk. Eventually, after searching over half the day, I would return home to find the Astral Raptor was getting way too close for comfort. I began pecking away at it with everything I had, attempting to use rocks to keep it out of reach as long as possible. And I was actually doing decent enough. I had it pretty weak when a whole pack of aloes would roll up over the hill to reinforce the raptor.
My base is just right down the hill down there. I didn't think that there was this like bad stuff like this close.
I would get the raptor away from the aloes and begin slowly taking it out again when the Rex from day 5 would show up as well.
Are you kidding me? Why is everything making its way down here? Come on, man. This is ridiculous. The Rex now too. Everything and its mother is making its way just down this pathway. They're just like, hey, look, an open trail. Let's go down that trail. I'm gonna tame that Rex. Screw it.
I tried desperately to lure the Rex away with some arrows to its back, but this Rex saw Moschops she wanted to eat and would not be stopped.
This is actually nuts. Brother is literally making his way to my base.
I tried leading my tames away, but Citrus's stumpy little legs just didn't have enough juice, and the Rex would make short work of him.
The Moschops is being chased. Obviously, the Raptors are fine, but that Moschops is dead. Yep, there goes our Moschops. 2 Moschops down already. Poor guy. This Rex was on the other side of this island. He was on the other side of this island, went up the hill, all the way around, down the hill, and made his way to my base to come kill my stuff.
It seemed no matter how far I went, the Rex and Raptor just kept pushing me further down the beach, until eventually I found a nice little spot where I could tuck my Raptors away behind some rocks. So with them hidden, it was back to finally take out the Astral Raptor, and these variants of alphas give some crazy experience and loot.
Thank you. Oh, baby! That's what I did, boy. That's why we do it. That's why we do what we do. That's why we do it. Right there. And 29 levels on our Pteranodon. What? Holy crap. 19 freaking levels for killing that thing? Just that level 1. That was only a Raptor.
And with the Raptor dealt with and the Rex now enjoying an all-you-can-eat buffet down the beach, I brought the girls back home. And then I figured, why should I try taking out the Rex when I could tame it instead? So I started smashing rocks with my new super hatchet, broke down some stone B-gates I got out of a drop, and crafted up some gate frames to trap it, as well as some gates I'll need for a future trap. And thankfully, this Rex was at least easy to trap.
Got it. She's a team player. She's a team player. She wants to be on my team. That's why she came all the way over here. She was getting rid of the Moschops because she thought she needed a roster spot. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, this Rex was not easy to trap.
Don't do this. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my gosh. I have to go. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. No. Not the Pteranodon. Not the Pteranodon. Anything but the Pteranodon. No, no, no. Passive, passive, passive. Now it's leaving. Now it's chasing that, whatever that is. The end of the earth.
Failing to trap it enough times would lead to me crafting a large bear trap, which I always forget these things are actually super cheap. But having a bear trap didn't mean this was gonna go any easier.
You've got to be kidding me! No way!
Eventually, it would step in the trap, and after misplacing one terrible gate, I managed to trap it. Then it was just time to count out the perfect amount of arrows.
19, 20, 21, 22, 60, 61.
Until eventually the Rex went down.
There we go. And she's down. She's down. She's down.
Then, of course, just after taking down the Rex, a yellow drop would descend almost on top of me, and inside of it would be a new crossbow that would have been useful like 30 seconds ago. So with the Rex needing some time to starve out, I crafted up a Meguana saddle in case I should find one, and headed back out to search again. Of course, if I see a drop, I grab a drop, and this one had an Ascendant Seahorse saddle. Now, the Seahorse was a mod creature originally included with the mod version of this map. Wildcard decided to leave it out of the official map, but I decided screw that, it belongs here. And then the rest of the day was again spent searching for Meguana with no luck. The search would take me into the next day and basically all around the map, but at least I would find a yellow ring drop that had organic polymer in it, which will be very useful in the near future. I would also find a few sharks who apparently got a little too close to the shoreline, and harvesting them would give us some free spoiled meat as well as oil. Returning home, it was once again time to ignite my saber on some dodo younglings, feed the Rex their prime meat, and she would tame up, and we named her Beach Bum. And like I said, that organic polymer would come in handy as I would combine it with the oil and a few other mats to craft our first few cryopods. Now I do use a cryo mod, mainly because this mod is close to vanilla, but includes the ability to see your tame's stats. And after that, it was back out for some more crystal, and then I crafted one more cryo. I would then end the night using the cryo to check Beach Bum's stats, and it turns out she has 39 points in melee, which is decent, but not amazing. With no luck finding any Meguana, I decided to instead shift my focus on finding a decent Argentavis, and luckily for me, there was a flock nesting in the mountains nearby. Unfortunately though, none of them were decent levels. That was until I circled around the mountain and found one that had made its home towards the bottom of the mountain, just above the ocean, and this was a 145. So I began baiting it back to my base, where I would set up a gate trap, and in doing so, completely lost track of the bird.
Do not tell me this Argent disappeared in the little bit of time that I swimming around or flying around. Brother, where could it have gone? Oh, it's right there. Oh, crap.
Once I had its attention again, I lured it smoothly into the gate trap, but then failed to get the gate down before it escaped. Attempt number 2, I simply lured the Argent in on foot, placed the gate behind it, and then slipped out the side, trapping it. And all that was left was to load it up with arrows until it passed out. Nearby, I would once again take down a baby turtle for the prime meat I needed, and on the way back, I spotted a beautiful source of chitin.
Oh, we need that. We need that.
Which, combined with the chitin I already had at base, I had the exact amount I needed for the Argent saddle.
Oh, I have the keratin. I have exactly enough keratin. Chitin, are you kidding me? Hit the slots tonight, buddy. Holy crap. Nailed it. 150 out of 150.
So I took out some local parasaurs for the hide I was missing, and with that, the Argentava saddle was crafting. And then I just sort of putzed around base aimlessly for the rest of the day while I waited for the Argent to tame. It would eventually, and I named it Artemis. With Artemis, I figured I would be able to easily take out the other Astral Raptor to secure the last few levels needed for the Rex saddle, especially if it gets stuck on some eager Hyaenodons. Eventually, it would break free and I would be forced to take out the pups as they were just getting in the way of me and the Raptor's personal time. And then I came up with a genius idea to make this easier.
Get away from this, you punk. Yeah, run away from that, you little punk. Let's see you get away now. You gotta stand here and you gonna take it.
That was until I hit the Raptor so hard that I literally forced it through the crack to freedom. It would go down eventually though, giving my Argent some nice levels and getting me a few closer to 74 and the Rex saddle. Soon after taking that out, I would spot another astral creature slightly inland, this time in the form of an astral Carno. Eventually, I would get the Carno stuck on a rock long enough for me to deploy my genius trap, locking it in and leaving it helpless to stop me from pounding it non-stop from behind. The Carno would go down and this one hooked me up with an upgraded pike, a few levels for my Argent, but more importantly, just enough experience to get me to level 74 to unlock the Rex saddle. And of course, I would be short on hide, so another family of parasaurs would have to leave us, as their hide would go straight to making a new saddle for Beach Bum. With Beach Bum saddled, I decided to take on another astral creature, this time an Argentavis. At first, I would try trapping it like I did with the Carno and Raptor, before realizing I could easily take it out with Beach Bum.
There we go, just like that. Not too bad. Hello! Hello! I love these things, dude. 38 levels! Say what?
I would then spot another one atop the mountain flying along the cliff's edge, but it would fly up and then off of the ledge, and then eventually down and away as I missed the shot with my crossbow, leaving me to try landing tricky shots, which would result in me losing my footing in the rain and slipping off of Beach Bum.
Oops. Oh, it's gonna kill me.
Somehow I would manage to slip away from the Argent by running through rocks until it lost interest, but now I was basically stuck on a cliff. So instead of doing the honorable thing and trying to survive, I just dumped all of my stuff into a storage box and then dove into the water to make friends with the local wildlife. I would return the following morning with my Argent to reclaim my gear and then lure the Astral Argent up to my Rex, where I would trap it just to be safe and let Beach Bum munch away at it. While up here, I scooped up a DOWLOAD that ended up being a level 140, dropped it off near my base, and began tranking it the old-fashioned way, as it's too slow to really stop us. But after chasing it around some, I decided it would probably be best to just trap it, so I built the typical stone drop trap, lured it in, and built walls behind it like a sweaty Fortnite kid. And before long, the DOWLOAD was fast asleep. And with my moss chops having an average lifespan of 15 minutes, I was left to gather berries with my bare hands for taming this thing. But after about 10 seconds of this, I decided it wasn't very fun, and instead headed down the beach to find a new moss chops. It wouldn't take me long to find a potential suitor. Unfortunately, it wanted the one thing I didn't have.
What do you want? You want anything I got? Giant bee honey. Of course that's what you want. Flippin' bum, dude. Of course you want. Like, I have the mushrooms and the flowers. It wants the one of the things I don't have. It is what it wants.
I found the second one though, but yeah, it was also picky.
55, okay. Giant bee.
But you know what they say, third time's a charm.
Come on, want something easy, bud. Why? Why do we all need bee honey? Why? What's going on here, folks? Why does every dang moss chops on the flippin' island want a dang bee honey?
Eventually, I would find a fourth one, and finally, it wanted something we could provide. Instead of taking the mushroom to the moss chops, though, I brought the moss chops to the mushroom, and we had it tamed, and I named it The One Who Lived. With the new moss chops on the squad, I got straight to gathering measure berries, and our DOWLOAD taming was now underway. So with it taming, I once again headed out in search of a Meguana, which once again meant mostly just grabbing drops, as I couldn't find any Meguana.
Oh, hold on. Oh, baby, an Ascendant Rex saddle. That is what I'm talking about. Everything else, pretty mediocre. But we got an Ascendant Rex saddle, which is pretty nice.
And yeah, this would continue most of day 14 as well. I even crossed over to the other landmass, which I think is pronounced Fokintos? Fokintos? But I simply could not find one anywhere. On the bright side though, I grabbed another yellow ring drop that had some super tough lack boots.
Look at what we just got. Freaking 1,000 armor boots.
Another positive note is I found this quiet little spot that could potentially be my future base location.
That's kind of a cool little spot right here. I mean, ooh, this is a very pretty spot. Ah, it's so far out of the way though. This is a pretty spot, and it's just tucked away over here. You know me. Well, okay, you probably don't know me that well, but I like to be by myself. I like to hermit it up, you know? I like to live off where nobody else is gonna come bother me. This might be my base. And I got a waterfall in the background. Like, it's mwah. Beautiful.
And as the night was ending, I was checking every single island, desperate for some sweet, juicy lizard milk. I even found an island where they apparently worship Ovis. I would search one last island the following morning, again finding no meguanas, so instead I headed home disappointed, but at least my DOWLOAD had finished taming during the search. And trying to stay positive, I also gathered so much loot during my search that I now needed an extra storage box just to store it all. I also got some more organic polymer from the yellow ring drop, so while here I made up some more cryopods, and then named our new DOWLOAD
Blue for the 2.
And then I headed back out once again to search for a damn meguana. But luck would be on my side this time as I went off course to grab a blue drop, which ended up leading me straight to one.
Oh, baby. Oh, you sneaky little bastard. It was trying to hide behind these rocks. I would have definitely not seen this. Like 90% of the time, I would have not seen that. Level 95, I'll take it. 90% of the time, I would have walked or flown right past and not seen that thing camouflaging into the rocks and the shadows. But baby, we spotted it. Oh my gosh. Hello, sweetheart. How are you doing today? Let me introduce myself. My name's Chips.
Now at the time, like I've said, this tame was kind of brand new, and yes, it's just a reskin of a Maywing, so I knew it was a knockout, but I didn't know if it had the same kind of torpor levels or anything, so I was gonna need some sort of a trap. I started gathering materials, and with them, put together some thatch pieces, which I would use to try trapping the beast. This was very hard though, considering it wouldn't stand still for more than 2 seconds. Eventually, I would be quick enough to get it sorta trapped, and then quickly extended the trap out some while it floated helplessly. I had it trapped. I just needed to add one more ceiling when...
No! No! You sick little... Oh my gosh! I had it! I freaking had it, man. I literally did it. I had it done.
I would try this method again with the exact same results, so instead I crafted up a few gates, managed to block it momentarily, and built the most makeshift trap in the history of all traps.
All right, there we go. Oh, it's so poorly done, whatever.
And then I proceeded to knock it out with just 3 shots. Honestly, I probably didn't even need to trap this thing. A baby raptor would act as my prime meat source this time, and before long, the meguana was finished taming as a Rex tried with all of its strength to mess things up. Of course, I brought its saddle with me, and we began zipping across the islands at breakneck speed, stopping by a yellow ring drop, which gave me an Ascendant crossbow blueprint. Once home, I named our new friend Bosk. And now with Bosk to speed us around the map, I headed out in search of some key tames, starting off by heading to this forest, which is considered the Redwoods. Here I would find a massive lake that I figured must have beaver spawns.
We've got beaver dams over here, but no beavers to guard them.
Despite not having any beavers, there were beaver dams, and so of course I looted those primarily for the cementing paste. Another tame on my list was an Ankylosaurus, so I headed to the mountains where I could easily find them. After some searching, I spotted a 115, but wasn't quite ready to settle for it. So I continued searching, and I would be rewarded as I spotted a pair that had come down from the mountains to graze on the plains, and one of these was a 130.
130. That might have to be good enough.
So I swapped out Bosk for Artemis, scooped up the Anky, and headed to the safety of a nearby mountain. But I was going to be leaving the Anky here to tame, so first I needed to gather some stone and wood, which I used to build a small drop trap. And I swear I have hit an Anky in this size trap before, but it simply did not want to go in. So I gathered some more stone, upgraded the trap to a 2x2, and dropped the Anky in the bucket. Loaded it up with arrows, and once it had enough in it to pass out, I headed out to gather berries, where I would run into one of the rarest finds in Ark.
That's a unicorn with a baby. A freaking unicorn with a baby unicorn.
I returned to the Anky to feed it some mejos as well as a few narcotics just to be safe, and since I'm leaving it here, I swapped out the door frames for walls and boxed it in. So with the Anky taming, I headed north in search of my next tame, a Megaloceros. Of course, I couldn't resist a yellow ring drop, and this was the drop of destiny, providing an Anky saddle as well as some metal behemoth gates. While up here, I found another large lake I thought might have beavers, but again, nothing. So it was back to search for a deer. I would find some, but nothing worth taming. The meguana is fast, but honestly, it's not great for scouting out tames or for spotting bad guys. As while trying to find a deer, I emerged from the trees straight into a Eutyrannus who would obviously roar at us, but luckily it didn't send my meguana into full panic mode. Having no luck, I headed to another lake among some absolutely beautiful trees where I would finally find some beavers.
Beaver!
2 beavers, 3 beavers, 4 beavers. Okay.
One of these beavers is going to be a good level.
The first one I plucked was only a level 20, second one wasn't much better at level 70, and the last two were only level 40 and level 20, so my search for a beaver would continue. Then while checking the river for beavers, I would find something else.
I just saw a deer. Hold on. Let's see what this level is. Is that a 1? No, that was the ant. That was a 150, I think. No, wait, they don't have levels. So it is that guy. Brother, leave me alone! I hate the freaking ants in this game!
Eventually, I got a moment to breathe where I would deploy Artemis, scooped up the deer, and we headed home. The map on this arc looks deceptively small though, compared to the actual size of the land. Sort of like the exact opposite of the photos that I send to my wife. It would take me forever, but eventually I got the deer to the trap at my base, and with a few shots to the face, it was down. While doing this, the Anki finished taming, so I used the map's teleport system for the first time to get a little closer. I didn't choose the best spot though, so it would take me a minute to get to the Yankee, but once we did, I shoved it in a cryo and headed home. I would arrive to see the sun setting beautifully over our little beach camp. I got my Yankee friend out to meet all of its new friends, and then popped that Ascendant saddle we got onto him. And then I named him Spanky. So now the only harvesting tame I still needed to get was a beaver. I would check another spot where they allegedly spawn, finding no beavers, but finding something else that was pretty cool.
Whoa.
Oh, this is the clam cave. Ah, I heard about this. Look, these are pearls.
I continued searching along another river and finally found a few more beavers. Unfortunately, the highest level one was only level 95, but at this point, I was content with just settling for whatever beaver I could get. It's like my 20s all over again. This spot also had a massive beaver dam stretching the length of the river, which I was pleasantly surprised to find that it was actually a harvestable dam instead of just map decor. And then I started taking out all of the lower level ones as I debated with myself if I was in fact going to settle for a level 95, when as luck would have it, I spotted one last beaver.
Wait, there's another one up here. Oh, please, baby, please. 150! Holy crap! That's what I'm talking about, baby! Come on, sweetie. Come on, baby. All right, I'm done.
So with this being the final tame before moving base, I decided to make the 6,000 meter trip to my new base spot to knock the beaver out there instead. Since they take a while to tame, it would allow me to start setting up the base at the same time. Of course, if you've watched any of my videos or live streams, you know my #1 enemy is the stamina bar, as I would run out of stamina in the worst possible spot, dropping my beaver off for its potential death by a Thyla.
Oh, Thyla! Not a Thyla! That's the thing I wanted to see. Holy crap, that big black cat just came out of nowhere. Oh, the beaver's gonna try to get involved with it. Oh, crap. Beaver, you will die. That Thyla will easily take you out. No, 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 I can't let this happen. Oh, I can't do anything about it. They're going after the baby. Come on, I gotta get some stamina just so I can get it out of there. No, 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 no. Mr. Beaver, you have no chance of winning this fight, my friend. Oh my gosh, I missed the grab. Holy crap, this cannot happen right now. Wait, the beaver's taking the Thyla to work. Hold on now, the beaver coming to town. Oh, it was only level 5. All right, beaver. All right, well now that you're childless, you'll be more willing to date me. Or I should say I'll be more willing to date you.
We survived and our journey continued, but I would need to rest several more times along the trip, and at the first stop, our new beaver friend hadn't quite gotten over the trauma of losing its child.
Brother, you cannot go get them. Do you understand how far away they are? I've carried you very far from them. There's no returning for this fight, my guy. Like, they're like thousands of meters away. You're not going back to fight them. Oh my gosh, dude, is it this stupid? Is this beaver just TikToked or something? My man is trying to go back to have a war with creatures that are on the other side of the map at this point.
Why you bullying me?
After flying for what seemed like forever, I would arrive the following morning, set up a drop trap for the beaver, plopped it in, and knocked it out. And while waiting on the beaver to need its first dose of drugs, I got down some storage boxes where I would store all of the loot I had on me. It wouldn't be long till the beaver was fiending for the narco, and then I teleported myself and Artemis as close as possible to my old base to go load everything up and move over. The only problem is I was under the understanding that any tame in the bubble also teleports, but yeah, Artemis didn't quite make the trip. Luckily, I had Bosk in a cryo, and Bosk was so eager for this new task that it even laid me an exceptional egg. We arrived at the beach pad to find the deer had finished taming, and I named this one White Stag. After that, I began loading everything I had into boss. Luckily, I have plenty of stuff, but nothing is really heavy. And then I cryoed all of my tames for the trip. So with that, we said goodbye to our little beach camp and the constant threat of being invaded by, well, everything. Boss would make short work of the almost 8,000 meter trip, and in the blink of an eye, we were back at what will be our final base spot. I honestly chose this spot primarily for the look. I just really like the sort of natural platform that stands out over the ocean. It's got some great foliage we can incorporate into our build, and honestly, it just feels very peaceful and calm. The next morning, I wasted no time getting a new temporary pad set up to work out of, and while doing this, the beaver started calling out for another round of drugs. At this point, I was ready to do my first build of this playthrough, so as usual, I would need to set up some visual storage for keeping my materials. I was short on metal, but then realized I had the metal B-gates from a few days ago, and would break that down for the metal I needed, and then some. I would also need a Megalocero saddle to gather thatch, so I crafted one of those, as well as a DOWLOAD saddle in case I need to ride it to gather any of the stone. After that, I got the visual storage bins crafting, as well as a drop box, and this mod is one I use on all of my playthroughs. Essentially, it's dedicated storage bins for your different materials, and then you have a drop box where you can quickly deposit and then distribute your mats to those bins. They also have a pull from storage feature that makes crafting things much easier. So all that was left to do now for the build was to gather the materials, starting with white stag to get thatch. Thatch gathering continued the next morning, and as I returned to store it all in the bin, I would find the beaver had finished taming. As usual, I was short on hide for making the saddle though, so I took Beach Bum down into the valley to farm some Brontos, crafted the saddle, and we named this one Splinter. Wasting no time, I went straight into gathering wood with Splinter. I started off letting it auto-harvest from below Artemis, but honestly, it was hard to see once the trees had fallen. So instead, I just ran around, careful not to farm any berries. We needed a ton of wood though, as even after 2 trips and all day gathering, I still did not have enough. So I was back out the next day for a third run, and about a third of the way through the day, I was finally dropping off the last load of wood and now had enough, which meant the last thing was to gather stone with Blue 42, and because I'm a lazy bastard, I headed up to the hilltop where there are metal nodes that will give more stone per swing. Apparently there is also an Astral Rex up here, so I would have to be quick. I dropped off my first massive load of stone, and then it was back to farming some more metal nodes, this time along the side of the mountain. And as the night was ending, I dropped off my final load of materials. 1/4 of the way through this playthrough, and it was time to start crafting the building pieces I would need for our first build. Luckily, I had some focal chili I've collected from drops, which would speed up my crafting speed. But even with that, I would stand around forever until finally our last pieces were crafting, to include the Astraeos structure skin mod. Before I could get started though, I spotted an Astral Argent lurking nearby, and if I've learned one thing, it's that if I don't take this thing out right now, it will absolutely come and kill one of my tames while I'm building. And so with the threat neutralized, it was time to start work on my first build. So there you have it, that is our first build of this playthrough, and as usual, we are starting things off with our workshop. Obviously, this time around going for the Greek style, which I think we managed to capture pretty well, mostly due to the beautiful structure skin mod. I didn't go very heavily with the columns for this build like some Greek structures, as I was aiming for more of a village look. The room off to this side will act as our crafting room to keep things like our fabricator and chem bench. This taller section will be where we keep my industrial forge, and then this other side section is where I'm going to hide all of my visual storage bins. One of my favorite parts is this arched entryway that if we want we can just close up, and then all of our tames should be safe on the other side of the build. Build complete, it was time to craft all of those visual storage pieces, and in doing this I actually reached level 82, which meant I could unlock both the industrial forge and the chem bench. And then I spent the rest of the night simply getting all of my visual storage bins down. The next morning I would start with getting everything moved out of whatever random storage I threw it in, and setting up the distribution system to make my life easier. I then took old Spanky out to spank some crystals I would need for crafting a fabricator, placed that down in the workshop, and then checked to see what I would need for the forge. I was still short about half the required metal, some oil, and organic polymer. So instead I looked over the chem bench, but found I needed some more electronics, organic polymer again, and spark powder. Not wanting to go do any of that right now, I settled for relocating my smithy into the workshop, and then got some more normal forges down to use for crafting more metal at once until I have the industrial forge. And with everything now moved in, I tucked my tame safely behind the gates of the build, and then rather than shutting the doors, I just clogged the hole with Beach Bum's ass.
Just plug the hole, Beach Bum. Just plug the hole. Nothing's getting through, Beach Bum.
With the base upgraded, it was time to get back to taming, so I grabbed the Ascendant crossbow BP we got a few days back, gathered some of the missing fiber, and crafted it up. My next goal was to find some low-level Rex to create an egg farm, as their eggs are used for exceptional kibble, which I'll use to tame fairies for doing the boss fight. And as luck would have it, I would find a level 5 female to kick things off. She would rather die to a Bronto before joining my team though, but I wasn't gonna let that happen. And being that she is a low level and I have an absolute beast of a crossbow, I figured no trap was needed, and sure enough, she was down with only 2 shots.
And she's down. Alright, sweet. That's awesome. A level 5. It literally could not get any better than that.
Then on the way to get Prime, I stopped at a yellow ring drop that came with a juicy piece of mutton, which I thought might be enough to instant tame the Rex. I was wrong as usual, which left me to rush to get it some raw meat, but using Meguana was slow and the Rex began losing taming. So it was back to trying to get Prime meat, bullying a Diplo down the hill.
I'm bullying you now, bud. You ain't pushing me around, I'm pushing you around. I'm literally shoving this dude down the mountain. Get down the mountain, brother.
But before I could take the Diplo out, a pack of raptors showed up to save the day.
Oh gosh, I need to get a little bit of stamina back. Just the littlest of bits will help. Holy crap.
It would take me so long to get prime meat with a Meguana that the Rex would end up taming on just normal raw meat, and after getting her home, I named her Sunburn. And I decided not to do naming cards for my egg farm tames, as well basically they're just not important enough for the fancy stuff. Later in the day I would spot a level 70 male Rex just down the beach from us, locked in an epic battle with the turtle, and since I still need a male to start my farm, I took advantage of the opportunity and again put it down without a trap. And just up the hill was another Astral Raptor, which would give all the prime meat I needed to start taming the Rex. While waiting on that to tame, I would spot a level 115 Meguana, and already forgetting how easy it was to trank one with my old, weaker crossbow, I tried using a bear trap in hopes that it would just sort of wander into the trap. That obviously was never going to happen, and I decided upgrading to a 115 just wasn't worth the headache. So instead, I went to fetch my newly tamed Rex, got it breeding with my 2 females, and named him Thanos. Out came the eggs, and I moved them as well as 2 exceptional Meguana eggs into a separate folder for making kibble later on. At this point, I almost have enough to tame 1 high-level fairy. Exceptional kibble, of course, requires focal chili, which means I'll be needing some citronal. So instead of doing all the work to grow my own, I headed to the local farmer's market where you can just pick them for free. Using Bosk, I would gather massive amounts of all the different crops.
Oh, we never need crops again. Look at that. Holy crap.
And back home, I had so many crops that I would have to make space in my preserving bin, but I think I'll be good on crops for the rest of the playthrough. While waiting on one last egg for making enough kibble, I wanted to tame a seahorse, and luckily I've got some decent scuba gear from drops. So it was into the water to search for one, which wouldn't be easy considering the fog. I know you can turn this off, but I try not to. It would also be a good idea to actually wear the scuba gear. Even with the fog, I would spot one fairly quick, but it was only a level 30. I would keep searching and eventually spotted a 115 that I decided would be good enough. Being a mod odd creature though, I had zero idea what I was actually doing and decided to just shoot it. That obviously wasn't gonna work, so I tried luring it into shallow water in hopes of getting it stuck when its buddy would come to its defense. I spent much longer than I care to admit trying to trank this thing, as it seemed to have a very high torpor, even going close enough to base to remote craft some gates, which I would use to then fail miserably at trapping it. So it was back to shooting it as it would flee into the fog and disappear. And at this point, I gave in and turned off the fog. I would put a few more shots in as the next day began, and the seahorse would go down. Belly flopping a baby trike would give me some prime meat, but it would barely move the taming bar.
Oh, wow. Is that not the most effective meat to this? What's the most effective then? Oh, so this thing is just an absolute pain in the butt to tame.
So I took out some baby dodos for more prime, as there was a good chance the seahorse would need more. While it began taming, I returned to base to make some flak armor, since, you know, I'm still wearing cloth 32 days into this playthrough, and then I cryoed up Beach Bum and Blue 42. Headed down to take out another baby trike, this time on foot, which I fed to the seahorse just to be safe. And with fresh meat now on it, I headed out for my next task. This task would take me to what is known as the Bee Cave, which luckily Beach Bum could squeeze through and would easily clear out the hordes of enemies, until all that was left was me and the many beehives. From here, I would use Blue 42 to farm the hives, as these hives give organic polymer when farmed with a DOWLOAD. If you're after honey, use an Anki. I kept doing this until I had a pretty decent amount and then headed out of the cave on Bosk. When I got home, I became worried that the seahorse's prime meat was about to spoil, but when I went to check it out, I tragically knocked down my decorative tree. No! I knocked down the tree, I think I knocked down the tree. Oh, not the tree. And then to make things worse, the seahorse was being circled by sharks. I would lure them far enough away and return to the seahorse to find the meat was in fact on the verge of spoiling.
Oh gosh, it's not gonna have enough. I have to go get any kind of meat really quick.
So I started belly flopping a random dillo, but realized it would probably be faster to just use my pike and return to feed the seahorse before it had lost any taming. Before long, the seahorse would finish taming as a pod of dolphins tried having their way with me, and I took it to the shoreline where I would safely cryo it up. Back home, I crafted a visual storage jar for storing the organic polymer. This won't actually preserve the poly unless we put it in a visual storage pantry, but for now, I just needed somewhere to put it all. And with that, I grabbed the seahorse saddle we found in an earlier drop and headed for the clam cave I spotted while searching for beavers. Once in the water, it was out with the seahorse, who I would saddle up, and we named it Kingdra. But the seahorse doesn't just look cool, it is also an absolute beast at gathering pearls, much like the anglerfish. In no time, I had more than enough pearls, so I headed home. But really, I just wanted to show you this clip of me flying under this bridge, because I thought it kind of made me look cool. Once home, I used the pearls to craft some electronics, and then headed out to gather flint with Spanky. I of course needed this to make spark powder, which was the last thing I needed to craft the chemistry bench. I then realized I would need more electronics for crafting a generator, and then placed both of those on the opposite side of the fabricator. The main reason I wanted a chem bench is to make narcotics faster, so it was out with Boss to gather more berries, and it was back indoors to get some drugs going. I then crafted a visual storage cooking pot, placed it down on the beach, and began making some focal chili. While down here, I spotted a level 20 Meguana tripping out in the water, and with one shot from my crossbow, it was blowing bubbles. I figured it wouldn't hurt to tame it since they can give eggs of all rarities, and luckily they have no oxygen stat, so it wasn't gonna drown. While the Meguana was sleeping with the fishes, I started making some exceptional kibble, and then found a nearby baby dodo who sort of looked like our good buddy Roscart. I would feed it to the Meguana, and it would tame up instantly. I took it back to base and named it Stretch Marks, and then got the two of them breeding, but unfortunately, neither of them laid exceptional eggs. With that out of the way, it was time to begin possibly the most painful part of this video, trying to find high-level Theries. But on the way to do that, I headed back to my OG base area in search of an Oviraptor. There were none there though, so I headed to another beach where I would find a max level with a baby. 150, gosh, that's not it. It does have a baby. I might kidnap that child. And after claiming the baby, I would cryo it up because at the moment, my brain was having a rest. With the Oviraptor secured, I began searching for Theries when suddenly my brain would start working again. Oh, wait. Yeah, come on, kiddo. The first Thery I would spot was only a level 55, and then my brain kicked into another gear as I realized I never turned on the Meguana's baby feeding. Delicious milk. Yum, 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 yum. What? And then just spent the rest of the day searching for Thery, and what few I found were terrible, like this level 15. With no luck finding one, I returned to base to drop off the baby Oviraptor, as well as to retrieve Beach Bum, so I can start taking out all of the low-level Thery. On my way to do that, I spotted a very nice Meguana. I almost have to tame you. and having learned my lesson from the past, I began shooting it without a trap. Luckily, it would just sort of forget that I was shooting it, and eventually it would drop like a rock. There was all sorts of babies in the area for prime meat, as well as a level 40 Meguana, and I figured why not tame it as well.
He'll go down. That's perfect.
The level 40 would tame up very quick as I removed Boss Saddle in preparation for his replacement, and while waiting on it to finish, I named the level 40 Izzy. A little while longer, the 150 finished as well, and I named it Meat Flaps. And then it was back to the task of taking out low-level Theries with Beach Bum, which meant a lot of cryoing Beach Bum, sometimes in not-so-safe spots.
Wait, I've got pretty good torpor. We'll see if I can hold it out. All right, I'm gonna tough it out. I'm gonna tough it out.
Having no luck, I also decided to swing by a mountain range known to spawn Karchar, but instead there were 2 Gigas. And then after searching nearly half the day, I finally found another Thery. However, it was only a level 110, so it had to go. And then I spotted a 145 male Rex fighting some Brontos. I jumped in to assist the Rex and trapped it by simply tanking it with Meat Flaps.
Got him.
I figured I might as well start breeding Rex just in case we can't find enough high-level Thery. So with enough arrows in, I just sat back and watched the Rex collapse awkwardly onto the gates. And not too far off, I would spot an Ovis, which would provide all of the mutton I could possibly need for taming the Rex. With that taming, it was back to taking out low-level Thery. Yeah, just a whole lot of Thery cleansing. And then there was this moment where I was outsmarted by a pair of Thyla.
No way. No way this Thyla can come up here. Oh, there's another one. Oh my gosh, dude, the old give and take.
But at least the Thery they were guarding was a high level, right? Yeah, no, it was another day of disappointment, but at least the Rex would finish taming, and a nearby Astral Raptor would give him plenty of levels to get started. The next day would start with me spotting another 145 male Rex, and again, this one needed help taking out some foes. I got it trapped by just tanking it, and the reason I'm taming another male is that it could possibly have better stats than the one we just tamed. Once it was down, I spotted a pack of aloes drinking from the river, and figured they would give enough prime meat.
It's gonna be kind of close, actually. It's gonna be kind of close, actually. Oh, buddy, that was closer than it needed to be. That was closer than it needed to be. Holy crap.
Hopefully he enjoyed the meal, considering we almost died getting it. So again, my Thery search continued until I came to a hilltop where my prayers were finally answered.
85, you bum. That had a 1 in front of it. That had a 1 in front of it. 135! We did it! We found one single high-level Thery! Oh, the gods have blessed us.
The way I tried trapping it was definitely a choice, though.
Why is this thing getting involved? You're on a passive! Oh gosh, this is a disaster. This is a disaster because of the Dilophosaur. Come on, brother. You gotta get out of here, Meat Flaps. Oh, they're both trapped right there. This is hilarious. They're stuck. This is an absolute disaster so far. This is the low-level one, right? Oh my gosh, he's on my butthole. All right, the high-level one is still stuck up there. I just have to get my way back up.
Luckily, in the chaos, the Thery got itself stuck in this tight little crack where I was able to gate it in, load it up with arrows, and it passed out into the rock as its kids watched in horror.
Oh, hey kids. Let me explain, all right? Me and your mom, we just aren't really getting along anymore.
I know you don't really want to be my dad. I know you don't care about me. You just try to give my mom.
While waiting on this one to tame, I spotted another high-level female down the mountain, this one being a level 130. And since I've spotted like 5 Thery here, I marked the spot on the map. I waited around for the Thery to tame and then claimed the male baby, as should the mom get really good stats, I could try breeding them onto a baby. Next, I headed down to the 130 to trap it, while its friend tried desperately to stop me. Disposed of said friend and began loading up the Thery. Unfortunately, I only had enough kibble for one, so this one would have to eat berries. Then while its torpor drained, I rushed home to get my new Meguana out and breeding for kibble, made sure our now fully grown Oviraptor had some food on it so we don't have another egg eating incident like last video, and quickly made up some more narcotics before rushing back to the Thery. I would arrive with enough time still to gather berries for feeding the Thery rather than wasting any narcotics. And in all of the excitement of finally finding some good Theries, the second of our high-level male Rex finished taming. So now with the Thery's torpor climbing, I headed home to continue tidying up, and while here checked the points on my first female Thery.
Yeah, this one has 45 health, so this is definitely a beast of a female.
I also used the cryos to determine which male Rex was better and got him in Beach Bum breeding for backup boss tames. And lastly, I named the Oviraptor Oyster. After doing all of that, it was time to go check on the Theory once more, when I would remember that I had claimed a baby from the first one.
Oh, I forgot about this guy. I completely forgot about this dude. He's over here starving.
And then I spent the rest of the night searching for a better male with preferably good melee. It wouldn't take me long to find a Theory, but of course it was a trash level. So I got out the Rex that I brought with me. Unfortunately, I forgot to switch over the saddle though, but luckily he had a hunger for war. So anytime I found a low level Theory, I would have to just whistle the Rex onto it. And my search would continue all of day 42 with no luck. My search would continue into the next day and again would net me no new Theory, and now halfway through the day, it was time to retrieve the 130. But when I headed back out, I would finally spot one hiding amongst the trees.
There's the Theory. Come on, baby. Come on. There's 2 of them. Come on. Level 20. Level 120 male. Oh, I'm taking it. I'm taking it. Screw it. I have to get something.
Of course, I didn't want to try taming it in there, so I began luring it out into the open, and honestly, a 120 is rather low, but at this point, I'm just gonna settle. On the way out, we would be joined by raptors and a beautiful red and black Thyla, who upon further inspection was a level 115. So like with the astral creatures, I gate trapped the Thyla while I was out of reach, and then shot it in the face hole until it passed out. With that out, I gate trapped the Theory by just tanking its hits like with the Rex. It would go down, and the night ended with me gathering narco berries for both. While waiting for their torpor to deplete, I combed through the woods in hopes of finding another, but found none, and so I returned to stuff berries. Taking a break from the Theory grind, I returned home to drop off the loot I've gathered from drops to include an Ascendant compound bow, created a folder for my boss Rex eggs, and then scooped up Spanky to start gathering metal I need for the industrial forge. I was out of wood though, so it was out with Splinter to gather some, and I got a small amount of metal cooking. After doing that, the Thyla was ready to eat, so I headed back to the island of Ovis, as cooked lamb is the Thyla's favorite food. I would eventually find one down by the beach, and then I found a larger Ovis who had a name that I'm not going to try to pronounce and was oddly aggressive. Now obviously I was not about to let this cotton ball bully me.
All right, you want to go? All right, cool. Do this. Where you at? Where you at, son? Come on, son. Come on, son. Wait, does it have a name? What in the world? That Ovis just punted me! What the heck? Oh my gosh, dude. Bro just sent me flying.
Okay, so lesson learned, don't pick a fight with a big ass sheep. I only survived because I have 500 health. So after escaping the demon sheep, I was on my way to feed the Thyla when I would spot another Theory who was a 140 male.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. A 140 male. A 120 male is a thing of the past now, although I'll still tame it because it might have good stats. It might end up with better stats, you never know.
I tried gate trapping it, but I messed it up and it got out. I tried again, but the Theory was now wise to my plan, and for some reason I thought it would be smart to just put 3 gates on and then lure the Theory in with me.
Uh-oh. 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 Oh, we're screwed. We're so screwed. We're so dead.
Eventually, I worked my way out and trapped it in, inserted some arrows, and it was down. Now it was time to feed the Thyla, and in the excitement from the sheep and the 140 Theory, I had a bit of a brain fart and completely forgot to cook the lamb. But it would still tame as I drugged the Theory. And if you're wondering why I'm still taming the 120, well, the 140 had absolutely abysmal pre-tame stats. The 120 would finish taming early in the morning, and it actually got pretty good health for a 120. Unfortunately though, I needed it to have melee. Then while waiting on the 140 to tame, I did a run fetching blue drops, as I've heard there are cyan drops that apparently are even better than red. But how anyone could tell the difference is beyond me. I mean, seriously, all of these look like they could be considered cyan. I mean, maybe I'm just colorblind, or I just haven't seen a cyan one, so I don't know what the difference actually looks like. Of course, while doing this, I kept an eye out for any more high-level Theories, and of course, I found the exact opposite. While in the area, I stopped by base to drop off the Thyla and hooked it up with a Mastercraft saddle from an early drop, and I named it Alice. Content with waiting to see how the 140 turned out, I checked to see what else I still needed for the forge, and this time instead of using the Argent, I just pumped a bunch of points into Meat Flap's weight and spent the night gathering oil, crystal, and metal before returning home to drop it off. I miscounted the oil though, so next morning I was back out gathering more, and while doing that, the 140 Theory finished taming, who remember, was 20 levels better than the other male. You can't make this up.
You got points in melee, 23 points in melee, 42 points in food, 36 at oxygen. This is the worst theory that has ever existed, and it was a 140. 23 points in melee and 27 points in health. This is actually the worst theory that has ever existed.
So it was back out searching for a male, as honestly, neither of these have melee good enough for taking on the Medusa boss. But after another day of disappointment, I returned home empty-handed. I would head back out searching the next day while also hitting some drops, and tucked between a yellow and red drop hid another theory.
Oh, there's a theory. There's a theory. There's a theory. There's a theory. Oh, no, there's a theory. There is a theory right here. Come on, baby. 135 male. Oh, baby, baby, baby. That's a 135 male. You know, them 35s is where it's always at. It's not the 40s. It's not the 50s. It's always the 35s. We're just going to tank it and gate trap it like we've done in the past. Hopefully it works out this time.
I would begin trying to trap it, but as usual, I had a bit of trouble getting it in. But I would eventually get the gates shut around it and began knocking it out when a Serato showed up with hopes of ruining this one for me.
But this bow is nice.
With the Serato dealt with, I continued loading the theory, and it was down. I, of course, loaded it up with some narco berries and then rushed home and grabbed some eggs and the rest of the mats needed for making some more exceptional kibble down by the water. I fed the kibble to the theory, but didn't have enough, so I then put some more berries in just to finish things off. While it began taming, I used the time I had to gather some more metal before returning to pump more narco berries, and then it was back to metal farming. With a good amount of metal gathered, I returned home to drop it off, and then went back out for the majority of the day just hitting red drops in the hopes of finding a Theory saddle BP. Late in the day, our new Theory would finish taming, and of course, I had to immediately check its stats.
It had good melee to start. What did it come out with? 46 melee and 39 health. This dude's a freaking beast. Holy crap. This is redemption for the last one. Thank you, sweet mama.
So now, finally having a male Theory with good melee, I immediately got it breeding with my two females. One of my girls has 45 points in health. The male has 46 points in melee. If we can get a male baby from them with both of those stats on it soon, we'll be in good shape for building our army. The next morning, it was time to prepare for my next build, starting with using some refertilizer to regrow our tree.
Wait, I'm standing right here. Okay, hold on. Yes, okay, I see. Okay, I see. Okay, I'm right there. So then this is that. So then this is that right there. Yes. Is this. Okay. And then it is basically right here is where I need to put this. Right in this area is allegedly where the tree was at. We're gonna find out. It didn't work.
After failing at that, it was time to gather some thatch, wood, metal rocks for stone, and before long, I had enough materials for my next build. First, though, I wanted to get my forge down, and too impatient to wait on metal to cook, I grabbed some metal gates I had in storage, broke those down, and finally, I had an industrial forge crafting. I placed it down in the spot we planned for it to go, and got it cooking the leftover metal. With the metal, I crafted up some more electronics and then air conditioners, which I placed down in the workshop for the time being. Of course, these would be used to hatch my first two Theory eggs, and while waiting on them, I went ahead and gathered berries with meat flaps, leaving them on meat flaps to have it feed the soon-to-be-born Theory, except of course the narcos, which I would turn into narcotics. And before long, my first Theory eggs were hatching.
Email and a male. Okay, we did get a male. Come on, have the good stats. Oh wait, that's a 218. Oh, okay, hold on now. This could be our male. Male has 45 health. Oh, 29 melee. Oh no. Ew. Oh, we got a male with the good health, but not the good melee.
So I began raising the female to be another breeder and stored the crappy male away. With that done, I queued up the next set of building pieces, sucked down another focal chili, and just stood around crafting until eventually all the pieces for my next build were ready. Before starting though, I decided to take out a nearby Astral Raptor with my new high melee Theory as a test.
Oh crap. I was like, what is that shadow flying over my head? And then I look up and my Rex is just dropping out of the sky. There we go. You get anything worthwhile out of it? Oh, okay, that's not bad. That might be something worth keeping an eye on. 36 levels, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, well, we gotta get this Rex back up there. He just came dropping out of the sky. Guess what, buddy? That's making the cut. You get to be in the video.
And then, figuring it would be better to start the build in daylight, I headed out to grab some red drops when, on the way home, I would spot something very nice.
Oh. Is that a Giga? No, that was a... Where'd it go? We're probably seeing things. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's a car chart. It's a Karchar. Oh no, no, get up, brother. Don't be on the ground. It's a little 100. Okay. Surely it'll stay over here if we just go do our build. Like, surely when we come back, it'll still be here.
But I had another build to do first, so I grabbed a few more drops and then returned home to find that one of my Theory must have got a very low roll on its timer and already had another egg to hatch.
And we got twins. Hello. And they're high level. Oh, they're male. Well, that one's a male at least. I needed females because these aren't going to have the... Oh, they're both male. They're not going to have the high health stat, so they're almost a waste.
And then I began clearing out the shrubbery minus one little tree and finally started my next build. Alright, so that is the second build of this playthrough, and this one is going to be the main house of our town, sort of like a high-class mansion. The bottom level here will be where I keep stuff like my grill and fridge, and then this top level is just kind of for looks. And one of the red drops we grabbed earlier had some more re-fertilizer in it, so of course I had to try regrowing our tree to complete the build.
It's like somewhere right here is where that tree was. I'll probably never actually hit it, but... We did it! We got the tree! It's back, baby! The tree is back! Hello! Beautiful. Oh, I've never been so excited about a freaking tree. Holy crap, we got our tree back. Oh, nice, dude. It's so party.
With the house built, I crafted a grill and fridge, as well as another generator to power them. And during all of the building, my Theory laid another egg, and it would once again come out as a female. So we're just gonna raise it up to eventually breed with our perfect male and get us some more babies. The following morning, I left my newly furnished house and headed out to attempt taming the Karchar we spotted a few days prior. This, however, was not going how I had hoped.
Oh gosh. Of course, there's bugs here to eat that. Yeah, nice. Love that for me.
I wanted to do this the vanilla way of just dragging it wild bodies, but between all of the distractions and this area being a massive open plain, this just wasn't gonna happen. So I headed home where I would relocate the aircons into our new house and began hatching some baby Rex to feed to the Karchar. While those were hatching, I crafted up a water intake and some tanks, placed a pipe down in the water, and with surprisingly only one tank, I now finally had water up to my base. Then as I returned to the Rex eggs, I found they were too cold to hatch, but also realized it would be better to just take out wild parents and claim the babies. And so I started taking down wild Diplos and Brontos and then adopted their offspring. It wasn't too hard to find the Karchar again, now battling a very brave Diplo, and it was out with one of the baby Brontos to sacrifice as tribute.
Oh, this is bad. He's gonna come over here. Oh, that was close. That was close, actually. He could have very easily walked over here. Yeah, he smells it. He smells it.
Things were a little bit too close for comfort, but the Karchar would begin sniffing the air, enticed by the scent of freshly departed Littlefoot. And to my surprise, it only needed one feed. And so we were off on an adventure with our new Godzilla-sized friend, tearing through Brontos and Diplos that seemed to roll over these lands, as well as the occasional Rex lured into the valley by all of the chonkin meat walking around. The taming was going about as smooth as you could hope, and before long, long, I had spotted the final pack of creatures who would secure me the tame.
Smooth sailing. Look at that. Diplo's out the Butte, Brontos, Aloes over here, which probably should be a little bit careful messing with Aloes, but... And there it is. Although this is not a great spot for this.
But with no saddle to ride it, I was forced to retreat with the Karchar in tow, cryoed him up, and returned home with an absolute unit now anchoring Team Chips. While back home, it was time to hatch another Theri egg, which again was a female, and then I began moving all of my tames back inside of the base, when I would become distracted by the sky around me.
This looks kind of sick though, other than the pixelation. If you ignore the pixelation that happens in this game, in the clouds, this is actually a pretty sick looking little setup we got going here.
Distraction over, I still needed several levels to unlock the saddle for my new Karchar, so I headed out in search of astral creatures, starting with the Rex that's been lurking around the nearby mountains. Before I could focus on the astral Rex though, I first had to take down its companion. I would drop down on its head, but in an unfortunate turn of events, the Rex got the high ground and began pushing me down the hill, leading to a desperate attempt to take it out before the astral Rex pins me in. I emerged victorious, and it was on to the astral Rex. Luring it over with an arrow from my bow, it wouldn't take long to realize I was outmatched. So taking a play from my last victim, I maneuvered to the high ground and began bullying it down the hill. Eventually the Rex became fed up with my antics and retreated, but I would chase after it, sailing an arrow across the map and straight up its ass. And with a few more pulls of my bow, it was down.
Hey, and we did it on foot. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that's perfect. That is like actually so perfect. We got absolutely terrible loot for it though.
From there, my day continued with just taking out any astral creature I could find, granting me a few levels along the way, as well as grabbing drops in search of a Theri saddle BP for our eventual army. Then we had a better plan, and by we, I mean my live stream chat, returning to base where I would go to craft a toilet, except that I was short on raw metal, so I headed out to gather what little bit I needed on foot. I arrived back at base the following morning and quickly crafted up the toilet as well as a few intakes. It wouldn't take long for me to spot an astral Argent, and so I placed on the pipe and toilet, hiked up my skirt, and relieved myself, giving me a short XP boost. Of course, the Argent was now up in the air, and my range skill being basically 1 of 99, I missed every shot, but luckily it came down to feed on a recently deceased Cerato, allowing me to strike. The clock on the experience boost was rapidly depleting, but so was the Argent's life, when it would of course turn tail and fly to the sky.
If he doesn't fly away. Oh, well, screw you, dude. Hey.
Not quite ready to give up on our plan though, I returned to the beach for a nice little run, trying desperately to work one last nugget out of this voluptuous BBL. But no matter how hard I pushed, nothing was happening, so I picked up the toilet and settled for taking out the Argent without the boost. Taking a break from leveling, I returned home where another Theri egg was ready to hatch, still trying to get a male with a high melee and health. So with another disappointment under my belt, I headed back out to continue leveling, quickly spotting an Astral Raptor, but as I went to set up the toilet, I realized that I had forgotten my Rex.
I forgot the Rex, didn't I? I did. What an idiot.
So it was back to base to fetch Beach Bum when I realized it was like 2 a.m. and decided to instead head to bed and save it for later. Now, if you're wondering if I would log on the next day and completely forget about the Raptor, the answer is yes. Yes, I would. Instead, I grabbed some narcotics, my scuba gear, and Kingdra out of the smithy, repaired the scuba gear in the fabricator, and headed out in search of a Basilosaurus. It took some time to find one, but eventually I would find a level 150.
Ooh, 150, baby. There it is. Okay. I gotta get its friends away from it.
Of course, first I had to lure away all of the mantas, who I then dealt with using Kingdra. Only problem is, in doing this, I completely lost track of the Bassi. It was nowhere to be found. But I did spy something else, an Astral Megalodon. So we began a little game of Ring Around the Rosie as I pecked away at its butt cheeks. While fighting the Meg, I spotted another Bassi watching in the distance, and this was a level 140. But first, I had to finish my battle with the Meg, which would have been much easier if it wasn't for constantly being interrupted by jellies who I somehow couldn't shoot through the water. Eventually though, the Megalodon was down. So now it was time to tame the Bassi by first clearing out all of its groupies, and here you have a pause screen while I check Dododex for how many arrows it would take to knock it out, when I had a bit of a revelation.
It's a passive tame, isn't it? Oh, I forgot they're passive tames. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's see here. We're gonna mark where we are on the map.
Luckily though, we were right next to Ovis Island, so I took one out for its mutton and began passive taming the Bassi. The wait for the second feed on a Bassi takes forever, but early into day 60, it was finally ready to eat again, and from there, it couldn't stop eating, and tamed up shortly after. After leaving the depths of the ocean, I decided to dry off by running some more drops, with this red drop giving a pump shotty, and another giving some real premium loot. I returned home to unload everything, where I would find one of my Theris was about to lay another egg, so while waiting for it to hatch, I ran out to gather some quick oil, as it was about time time to craft a vault for all of this sweet loot. When I got back, I found my Oviraptor had actually collected 2 eggs, which I hatched late into the night, but unfortunately we still do not have a single Theory, male or female, with the combined stats, but at least we did get another female. I was also short on poly for crafting that vault, so I was back into the bee cave on Beach Bum to clear the area out so that Blue 42 could once again go to work. Once home, I crafted a visual storage pantry which will preserve our poly for us, as well as another jar to hold all of the poly I've now got. I looked into a few different options on where to place this, but ended up just adding it to the first floor of the house. Placed the organic polymer jar inside and began unloading all of the poly we've gathered using the distro box. With that, I had what I needed to craft a vault, as my storage boxes were unable to close at this point. Placed that inside of my house, began moving everything over from the boxes, and picked up the last pieces of our initial pad here. Once I was finished moving everything over, I began hatching another Theory egg, now from one of our fully grown babies, and while waiting on that, gathered more berries with meat flaps to continue feeding them. The mother didn't have the high health stat though, so there was no chance of this being our breeder male, but it would have at least been nice if it came out as a female. Moving on from another disappointing Theory hatch, I headed to the mountain ranges that dominate the middle of the map, where I would find plenty of oil rocks to gather before getting out Artemis and Spanky to begin flying all around the mountain, gathering the many metal rocks. My metal gathering efforts carried on into the next morning until I had so much that even with all the points I've put into Bosk's weight, he still was not up for carrying it. And so I began a slow journey home, gathering metal along the way to the protest of 1 Carno. The journey took nearly the entire day, but finally I was home to dump all of the resources and made sure the metal was cooking up in the forge. After that, I spent some time running drops, still in search of that Theory saddle BP, and spent the night doing base maintenance to include adding a little portion I forgot onto the build. The next morning, I headed back out to gather some crystal I needed, and while returning, I spotted another Astral Carno, who I of course took out as I'm still not a high enough level for the Karchar saddle. I got home and transferred all the metal that had been cooking into storage, went to craft an industrial cooker, but found I was still 20 metal short. So after quickly transferring one more stack, I got the cooker crafting and placed it next to my pantry. After that, I hatched a few more baby Theory, and again, we still have not gotten one with the stat combo we're looking for. I would raise the female just as another to eventually breed with our perfect male. Next, I crafted a few more stone frames and gates and headed to the Arctic zone in search of a Utyrannus that I'll be needing to fight the bosses. Unfortunately, I would find something else instead.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh, I might die here. Oh gosh. Holy crap, that was bad. That was not good. That was not good. Who knew there was just Perlovius? Just random Perlovius. Oh my gosh, dude. The chances that I would happen to just come down right next to a frickin' Perlovia, you know?
My search would continue, and thankfully, unlike previous playthroughs, I was actually finding Utis. They just weren't very good levels. I wouldn't have any luck the next day either, as I continued spotting low-level Uti, but I would also find a blue drop with a toilet in it. This would prove to be useful as I spotted an Astral Argent and Carno in close proximity. So I quickly gathered stone for making myself a water intake, placed down the toilet, and this time I waited to poop and instead started fighting the Argent first. Unfortunately, in my infinite wisdom, I decided to randomly attack a woolly rhino, worried the Argent might aggro onto it and get killed, which in turn led to exactly that happening, as not only did I not have a chance to activate the XP boost, I also didn't even get the kill on the Argent.
Oh, that's tragic. Oh, that is tragedy. Tragedy, why'd you come and find me? Everything was going fine without you here.
So I turned my attention to the Astral Carno, drawing it down to the beach, and once it was weak enough, I hopped off Beach Bum for a bathroom break and returned to take out the Carno. Unfortunately though, even with the boost, I didn't get any levels. And that would be the end of my UD search for the moment, as I returned home, mostly just to do some organizing, as well as just kind of putzing around the second floor of the house, admiring the views out of the different windows. The time for admiring the views was over though, as it was time to get started on doing some caves. So I crafted up some arrows, some gunpowder, which I used for crafting simple bullets that I would then turn into shotgun shells. I then cryoed up my Thyla Alice and headed out to take on the first of 6 artifact caves that are currently on Astraeos. Now, the caves haven't been officially named yet, so I named them myself. This first one is the Cave of the Drowning Lady. It holds the artifact of the Massive and is located roughly right here on your map. As I began making my way into the cave, I would head down a dark, scary hole where I would be greeted by some of our typical cave creatures such as Arthroplural. Of course, with my compound bow, they would be no issue for me. After clearing out the first room, I would find a pedestal with a button on it, which of course I had to push.
All right, something opened somewhere. I would make my way through what appeared to be somewhat of a storage room and eventually came into another large open room where I would find more bad guys waiting for me. I was about to run, but we got it down. Yeah, which means its boy ain't gonna be nothing. But again, with my bow, these were not much of an issue for me, and before long, I would have the room cleared out. In this room, I would find another pedestal with a button that was labeled button 1, meaning there's probably more than one button to open the next door. Unfortunately, it seems like they were higher up, and I'm not able to climb this pre-made ladder, so I wasn't really sure how I was gonna get up. I think I'm meant to climb up to some stuff or to have brought a grapple. Well, I did bring a Thyla, which I maybe can hopefully wall climb up. And so I would begin trying to get up to this button using my Thyla's wall climbing ability. Okay, we got it. We're up. Button 2. Then the question is, oh, there's button 3 over there. Okay, it's got to be up there. And now having this mastered, button 3 would be much easier to get to. All right. Hey, we did something. This would open a small door to the side of the room, which would lead into an underwater section. So with scuba gear on and pike in hand, I headed in.
Keep swimming, swimming. Piranhas! Ain't no fang with a pike like this, baby. Anybody else want some? You want some? Come on. Oh!
And before long, I was swimming up to the statue to grab my first artifact.
All right, first. Oh, hello. Hey.
And so that would be our first cave and also the end of this day, as I would stop on my way out of the cave to pay respects to a statue. I would return home from my first cave adventure the next morning, where I would grab an artifact pedestal I had gotten from a drop earlier and added it and our first artifact onto one of the pillars outside of my house. No time to rest though, it was immediately back out for my second cave. I'm calling this one the Minotaur's Den. It holds the artifact of the Hunter and is located roughly right here on your map. Before I could even make it into the cave, I would be greeted by some of our typical cave creatures right at the entrance. I would eventually work past them though, and it was into the cave. And now the thing about this cave is with a Thyla, you can basically just avoid everything or jump over it and just kind of make your way straight through. I would run into a few bats on a bridge that I felt like I needed to take out, but a little bit of maneuvering around them, and I would quickly lay them to waste with a few arrows. Before long, I would round a corner to where the Minotaurs were guarding the artifact. The only problem was I had a whole entire trail of bad guys following me. Come on, go down, you annoying thing. Jeez. Okay, this guy is not as strong as I would have hoped he would be. I'm curious how these Minotaurs are gonna go. They're gonna be like super tough for him. Now, despite having the Astraeos creatures mod on, I've only seen Seahorse. I've actually never seen a Minotaur in the wild, so this will be my first time encountering them, and I'm not sure if the cave ones are stronger or not, but they didn't actually prove to be much of a challenge. Come on, Alice. All right, one down, Alice, good job. I'm taking this one out myself, because I'm like that. Tank it, Alice, I'm taking him out. He's not that strong at all, he's actually kind of weak. There he goes. All right, sweet. That is 2 artifacts down. Real nice and easy. After retrieving the artifact, I would head down a side path deeper into the cave in hopes of finding some drops, but not wanting to risk getting turned around and lost, I backtracked and headed out. On my way home, I grabbed another red drop, which had a pretty nice Moza and Tuso saddle, but still no Theory BP. And then once home, I added my second artifact onto another of the pillars, and there you have it, we've got 2 artifacts now. 2 of the 6. And then taking a short break from caving, I looked over what I needed to make a grinder, started crafting up some paste, and transferred the last of the freshly cooked metal into storage. All I was missing was a little bit of oil, but first some more Theory eggs were ready for hatching. I would get 2 more females, but still no stat combination. And I know I have showed you guys a ton of egg hatching at this point, but I am just really trying to drive home the point of how unlucky I got trying to get this stat combination. So I would let the wind dry my tears as I flew all the way back to the middle mountains, because you know, I forgot about the oil that's just right up the hill from me, but even better, I forgot something else. I don't have my pick on me. Idiot. I have to use my frickin' hatchet. Oh, what an idiot. I forgot my frickin' pick. This is so not gonna happen. This is so not even worth wasting hitting these rocks. On my way back, I grabbed a few red drops that of course had nothing but recipes in them, and when I arrived, I found that another of my now 4 adult female Theories had laid an egg, so I got that hatching. While that was going, I remembered the nearby oil spot, so I gathered some while an Astral Carno supervised my work. I would return with the oil to find the egg had hatched, and again it's a female, and again it doesn't have the stats. Unfortunately, like much of my life, I came up just a little
short when gathering the oil, so it was back out for more, until finally I had everything needed for crafting the grinder, which I placed down temporarily next to my vault. As the night turned to morning, I began unloading everything from my vault into the grinder, grinded it all down, and put all of the raw materials into a distro box for quicker dispersal. I would be doing this most of the morning, but now I've got a pretty healthy stock of all of our resources. And once the vault was cleaned out of all the extra junk, I moved the grinder to its permanent spot in the workshop. I then crafted up a library storage from the Aberration Bob's Tall Tales DLC, placed it down next to the vault, connected my smithy to it, and crafted up an Ascendant flak chest piece I had gotten a blueprint for in a drop. And then I spent the rest of the night hitting drops in hopes of finding our elusive Theory Saddle BP, or at least things like this Mosa saddle that I could grind down, or better yet, things like this Dinosuchus saddle BP.
If only we had gone with Dinosuchus instead of freaking fairies.
Drop hunting continued into day 70 with a single drop offering 2 more Ascendant Rex saddles, and honestly at this point I was considering including a few Rex in the boss fight. I have like 4 Ascendant saddles for them. Eventually I would return home where I did a quick berry run to keep Meat Flap's milky nips squirting.
What?
And then I used the stim berries to start making stimulants that I'll need to eventually make veggie cakes. And then once again, I tried desperately to get a Theory to hatch with the combined stats, and once again was let down.
Oh, they're not. Oh, they're low level. They're freaking low levels. They gotta be like a 220 to have a chance, I think. 31 health and 30 melee. You are a disgrace. You're a disgrace. You're a throwaway.
Moving on from another disappointing hatch, I headed out to do my first underwater cave, hence why I tamed the Bassie back on day 60. Of course, as I prepared to dive, I realized that I had once again forgotten something important.
I forgot my freaking scuba gear. Oh my gosh, I forgot my dang scuba gear.
So it was back to base to grab my scuba, and then back to the ocean to try this again. But before starting, I named our Bassie Sausage. And now riding that girthy sausage, it was into the depths to enter our first underwater cave. We're calling this cave the Caverns of the Clams. They hold the artifact of the Clever and can be located roughly right here on your map. Upon entering the cave, I would quickly be greeted by some of our typical underwater creatures, but this was one of those caves where everything is ridiculously high leveled.
Level 300 Megalodon, oh they grew up!
Even being this high level though, they were no match for our girthy whale. And so I would continue making my way through the cave, just pushing everything in with sausage, including this absolutely hideous 3AMer. Admittedly, I would get churned around a few times trying to find the entrance to the rest of the cave, but eventually I did find my way in, and just down this large open room was the artifact we were looking for.
Wait, is this the artifact right here? Well, that was not very hard. Artifact, is this it? That is it. Well, that was an easy little artifact run. Okay. Well, there we go. There's another one down. Boom. Artifact acquired.
Back at base with my new prize in hand, I had to craft another pedestal and proudly displayed our third artifact. After that, I traded in my ocean exploration kit for my normal caving gear and restocked my quiver with metal arrows. Before heading out though, another of my female Theory had finished raising, so I of course immediately got her breeding, although she doesn't have the high health stat, so this will be purely for getting more females. I then cryoed up our Thyla Alice before realizing this cave was so close I could actually just travel there on foot and give Alice a chance to stretch her legs. We're calling this cave the Shrine of Piper. It holds the artifact of the Devourer and is located roughly right here on your map. And so I would begin making my way into the cave, where I would be immediately greeted by a whole cast of creepy crawlers.
I'm sorry, Dung Beetle. I don't want to do this to you. I'm sorry. We were such good friends.
The spiders and Dung Beetle would pin me into a corner, but I would eventually finish them off, and then as I made my way into the next room, I would find that Alice was a little too thick to fit through the doorway. So seeing as they obviously wanted me to do this cave on foot, I decided to honor that and continued making my way through with my trusty bow in hand, until eventually I came to a point that would have a small jump puzzle that would be, of course, no match for my parkour skills. And after clearing out one more room of Arthros, we would come to an open room that had our artifact. Our bow would make short work of the enemies in here, and we now have our fourth artifact of the playthrough. And with that, we made our way out of the cave with absolutely zero issues. Nothing went wrong as we made our way out. Oh gosh, I missed that. Oh gosh, what the heck? That's not what I knew. I didn't know that was gonna happen. The bats would give me rabies, but I was able to scamper around the pillars and take them down one at a time using my trusty bow. Don't worry, I got 500 health. That cough ain't nothing. And as the day began to come to a close, I was crafting another pedestal to store my fourth artifact. The following morning, I headed out to grab a red drop I had spotted over the hills, and this drop could not have come at a better time.
Alpha Rex can spawn in there? Are you serious? Well, I'm not ready to do that cave then. I'm only level 92. I gotta get 4 more levels before I can ride the Karchar. Unless this hey, cross your fingers, folks. This red drop has a Karchar saddle in it. Here we go. I've gotten a Giga saddle before. This could be a Karchar saddle. Theory saddle BP and a Karchar saddle.
Oh my god!
that is crazy. Oh, that is crazy. That is insane. Oh my gosh, I almost have to include the live stream in the video, or else people aren't gonna believe it's real. I'm gonna have to make a point in the video to be like, and I want you guys to understand that you can watch my live stream where this happened. If you wanna try to call BS or something, you can watch the live stream. Back at base, I hatched that fairy egg from our new mother. We knew it wouldn't have the high health stat, but it could have at least been a female. Luckily, another female would finish raising though. Again, it doesn't have the high health stat, but could hopefully provide us with some more female babies. And after this, caving would continue as I switched back to my underwater gear, grabbed sausage, and headed for our 5th cave of the playthrough, which obviously is an underwater cave. I'm calling this the Caverns of Low IQ. It holds the artifact of the Brute and can be located roughly right here on your map. Now, at the time of recording this video, apparently this cave was bugged and there were no bad guys spawning in the cave. That has since been patched and you can now find everything all the way up to Mozas, Megalodons, all of your typical big bad underwater tames. But for me, all I found was a blue drop that had an absolutely OP black chest piece blueprint as well as an Ascendant Daedon saddle. And so with no danger in sight and Sausage taking damage from the depths of the water, I switched to Boss to speed through this cave a little faster. I continued journeying through the cave until eventually I reached some ruins that were supposed to open up into fresh air, but they didn't exactly do that. Oh, this is the water? We're still swimming. This isn't supposed to be water, is it? This is not water. Is this supposed to be water? I thought this was land. Well, I guess I could swim up to this thing and see what it says, maybe. See, now the thing with this cave is you see these 3 statues here before you that represent 3 of the statues out here in this open room. Now, we're meant to match those in some sort of order using the buttons to open up a door to get to the artifact. And you're about to see exactly why we called this the Cave of Low IQ. A guy with a spear and the other hand down. Oh, and a sword. Okay, spear and a sword. I have his hand out, spear and sword, and then bow and arrow. I did not get it right. That guy. That guy. Oh, I'm an idiot. This is number 2. Huh. Okay, hold on. Maybe it's this one. Then the girl. And this guy. There we go. Eventually, that high school diploma education came through. Thank you very much. Returning home with our latest and probably least earned prize, I removed the extra addition I made to the build and placed the artifact in its place. After that, I crafted up one of the crazy strong flak chest pieces I got in the cave, but the sun was high in the sky and I began cooking beneath the metal of the armor, so I would hold on to it for the boss fight. And at this point, it was about time to finally use my card chart, so I first named it Lucky. You see, the last cave we have to do is filled with all sorts of big bads, so finding that saddle just in time to do it, Lucky was the only reasonable name. Before doing the cave though, I headed out to level him some, and lucky for us, there was another Astral Rex roaming about the plains. It's a level 150 though, so I first wanted to build up a few stacks on Lucky, and with almost 50 stacks, it was time for the 2 Apex Predators to do battle. The fight was going decent enough, but stamina was becoming an issue, and I would constantly have to retreat to let Lucky catch his breath. Continuing into the next morning, I decided to build the stack all the way up to around 100, and it was back for round 2 with the Astral Rex, where I would take it down. Hey, there he goes. Returning to base, I found I had 3 more Theory eggs to hatch. As I've got so many adult females now, the eggs are coming out of everywhere. The first 2 again are letdowns, and the third one would be a letdown as well. And look, I know again I've showed you so many egg hatches, but I just need you to understand how much pain I went through. After that, I just did some cleaning up around base and took some time to grind down some of the loot I've gathered, as well as gathering more berries for the babies I've got raising. From doing this, I would gather Tinto and Narco Berries, use the Narco Berries to make up some more narcotics, and then combine those with the Tintos to make med brews. Well, at least that was the plan. They definitely... Oh gosh, no, stop. There we go, much better. With those made up, I cryoed Lucky and headed for the island of Thorokus, which is the location of the final cave. This island basically acts as an extinction biome with all of the typical creatures, OSDs, element veins, and even a roaming King Titan. But if I'm being honest, this is probably the one part about Astraeos that I'm not a big fan of. Regardless, I was here
here, and so was an astral Argent, guarding the entrance to the final cave and to the artifact. Yeah, Lucky would make short work of him. This last cave is actually already being called the Lava Cave. It holds the artifact of the pack and is located roughly right here on your map. Now, this cave is essentially just a spiraling path that descends into this mountain, and with our card chart, it really wasn't much of a challenge. There wasn't any Astral Rex or any Gigas or card charts in here, so we just kind of stomped our way through everything. And before long, I had arrived at the bottom of the mountain where I would find our 6th and final artifact. With the artifact secured, I began making the climb back out, which should have been smooth sailing, but this is me we're talking about.
Oh, what the heck? I'm sorry. Okay. How does that count as being in the lava? I was nowhere near it. My boy just caught on fire. It was barbecued Lucky Charms.
On the way home, I of course had to hit a few red drops, still in search of a Theory Saddle BP, but had no luck. So I went home anyways and proudly displayed our final artifact, and we now have all 6 needed to fight the 2 bosses. With that done, I began hatching another Theory egg, and while waiting on it to hatch, I did some more drop running and returned just in time to watch it hatch.
It's a 235. Holy crap, this has to, please don't be a female. Bro, have a dick. I'm sorry. Have a, you know, male genitalia. Come on, baby. We did it. We did it. We got the male that we've been trying to get. The 45 health, 46 melee male is finally here. It only took about 30 tries. Holy crap. Hooray, it's got a wiener.
The clock was ticking, so with no time to waste, I got our new stud out to begin raising with all of his future ladies and laid my head to rest, finally able to sleep peacefully with the nightmare of low stat theories over. The next day, I woke up looking for the broccoli, and conveniently enough, it was literally growing inside of my base. There was an update to the game, and I think it might have caused the wildlife to grow back. So I spent a lot of time cleaning it up, and then took a moment to evaluate my resource stash as I was ready to start my next build, which led me to doing a run to gather thatch, another for wood, and then I ended the night taking blue 42 all the way to one of the better metal spots to farm them for extra stone. I would also break some of the crystal because why not? They give stone too, and with amazingly all of the stone I needed for the next build, I made the slow trip home. Once we got back, I began hatching another batch of eggs, now just looking for females, but I sorta needed cryopods, so it was out with all of the useless males to make room. Before long, they began hatching, and of course, one of the females would come out with a stat combo. And then I sorta just decided to get rid of all of the extra males.
All right, fellas. Well, what can I say? So sorry about this. I don't want to do it.
With that done, I moved some of the extra building pieces I had around base onto the Argent, and then began queuing up everything I would need for the next build, and slurped down another delicious focal chili. And yeah, the entire rest of the day, I just stood here crafting pieces, watching as the sun moved across the sky, and the moon eventually rose. But with that, it was time to put on our safety vest and hard hat, and get to building. So there you have it, our third build of this playthrough, and this is the first half of the town portion of our build. Now these builds are mostly useless for the playthrough, I just simply enjoy building and wanted to make a small village. I will be using the large platform build to store my breeder theory, then we have a few houses just tucked in around each other, a sort of walkway wall kind of thing going along the cliff, and then one final house over here that will serve another purpose. Now you already saw these burning brightly in front of the build in the showcase, but I would make up some wasteland torches as well as some gravestones. I placed the torches on the outside of the last build and lit them up, and then added the gravestones to the inside to honor the tames we've lost in this playthrough.
Here we remember Larry and Citrus, our two moss chops that unfortunately didn't make it past like day 5, but you know what? They paid the sacrifice that fertilized the soil of growth that we would have for the rest of this playthrough here on Astraeos. They set us off on the right course, and they deserve to be remembered.
As I exited from doing this though, I noticed that our perfect male theory was not looking too hot.
Oh my gosh, you're not in nursing. Wait, yes you are. Does he not have food? What the? Brother, what are you doing?
So I repositioned meat flaps to ensure everyone was eating off of its perky nips, and then moved all of my breeder females into the new build to prepare them for the night of their lives. The following morning, I geared up with some taming gear, crafted some pieces I would need for a trap, and some narcotics just in case. I've also collected a good amount of Rex eggs at this point, so I used them to make some more exceptional kibble, and it was off to the Arctic zone to search for a good Yudi and Daedon. And before long, I was making my way up a hill to collect a purple drop, and guarding it was a level 135 Daedon. So I swapped to Artemis, built a trap for it on the cliff, dropped the 135 in, and then after getting rid of its level 40 companion, I grabbed the purple drop and started shooting the Daedon till it passed out, when I would immediately stuff its face with the kibble. And it would tame fairly quick, and we named it Sir Eats a Lot. With that tamed, the search was now on for a Yudi, and as I crossed over a river, I noticed one that ended up being a level 130. But before I could even admire it, I would come under attack by a vicious pack of direwolves.
130. I'll take it. I will take it. I can't. Whoa, hello. Okay. Jump, brother. Oh my gosh, we're gonna die.
I would escape though, and then I got lucky out, as my plan was to tank the Yudi while I throw up gates around it. But of course, like any Yudi, it had a pack of Carnos with it, and being faster than his friends, it was very hard to take out the Carnos without hurting the Yudi. While struggling with this, another Yudi would show up, but it was a low level, and so I took it out along with both packs of the Carnos. So I began trying to trap the Yudi, which would turn out to be a lot harder than I expected, as apparently a Yudi can just kind of push around and juggle a Karchar.
Like, getting under me. So annoying.
Eventually, I just gave up and started shooting it while Lucky tanked its attacks, but of course, this led to it eventually running away as it got sleepy, which of course meant that it would run straight for the water, and we just kind of hung out here in the river, cooling off from the hot summer sun. Eventually, I got sick of waiting on it to get out of the water and began shooting it anyways, just hoping that it would go down on land.
Okay, I think it's safe. I think it's safe. Oh, I think that's okay. I think that might be all right. Yeah, okay, it's fine. Okay.
And then just after getting that one down, I spotted a 145 female, and figuring maybe I could mate them for an even better baby, I began knocking this one out, just letting Lucky pull the aggro. While doing this, it would bully Lucky into a wall where it seemed to get stuck, so I quickly built a trap around it.
Surely I can't squeeze this little hiney butt out of that.
But I left a little bit too big of a gap on the backside, and it would wiggle its way out. So it was back to shooting it while it attacked Lucky, and thankfully it just decided to kind of stand here and eventually passed out. And immediately after getting that one down, I would spot a 145 male, but I decided I didn't feel like bothering with it, so instead I went out to search for another Daedon to possibly mate with Sir Eats a Lot. Unfortunately, I would not find any high levels, but I would find an Ovis who would give me all the mutton I needed for taming both Udis. So it was back to feed the first and then the second one as well, when I realized that I was late on imprinting on the two good theory I have raising. I returned to base and got them imprinted, but yeah, we've screwed this up, and now they won't have the 100% imprint. So I headed back to get the Udis, stopping to grab a red drop which had an Ascendant assault rifle in it, and as the night ended, I was crying up our two newest tames. On the way home from grabbing them, I checked some more drops, still in a desperate search of a Theory Saddle BP, but again had no luck. So once home, I got my two Udi out, and they immediately started getting frisky. As I entered back through the gates of my base, I found another of my female Theory was now an adult, and soon after that, the Udi had produced an egg. I started hatching it, but after doing some calculations, realized I in fact do not have enough time to raise the baby. So I grabbed the Udi saddle I've been holding onto out of my smithy, and then named the pair Mom and Dad. After naming them, I cryoed each one up to compare stats, and Mom is far and beyond the better of the two and will be who we take into the boss fights. And as the night was ending, our perfect male Theory had finished raising, and he immediately went to work putting the ladies to bed. Our man was an absolute beast as he continued taking care of the ladies into the next morning, and we had eggs dropping everywhere, which I of course began hatching right away. From there, I would just kind of hang around base, eagerly waiting to see how all of these eggs churned out.
Okay, we got a mixture of levels here. Some of them not so good. We actually rolled multiple twins or triplets to have given us enough theories. The question is, how many got the stats that we want? Tragedy, start off. 45-29, tragedy. 45-46, success. 45-46, success. 45-46, success. 45-46, success. 45-46 success. 45-46 success. That might have been triplets, to be honest.
After sorting through them, I did away with all of the pathetic failures and then picked out a few of our adult females with the best stats to round out the team. Realizing I didn't have enough time to raise and breed anymore, I cryoed up the ones currently raising and replaced them with our new babies. And the night ended with hitting another red ring drop that had an industrial forge in it, which will end up being very useful. First though, it was time to start getting ready for the boss fight, starting with leveling our Yudi, which conveniently enough, I found an Astral Raptor supervising a nearby construction site, and taking it out would give me basically every level I would need. But then I spotted another one in the nearby plains, so I took down its raptor buddies to ensure a fair fight, and it was back out with my Yudi to fight the Astral Raptor and one of its friends I overlooked. It would put up a little bit of a fight, but eventually it was down, and we now have a total of 40 levels to put into our Yudi, which I would do once back at base, bringing it to 20,000 health, and then putting the rest of the points into stamina. Seeing how successful that was, I decided to cryo up Sir Eats-A-Lot to do the same with him. And as I began my search for more Astral Raptors, I spotted a red drop in the distance.
Let's hit this red drop, why not? Ooh, it's a red ring drop. Supposed to be the best drops.
Yes! Oh, baby! Oh, take it before it expires. Oh my god! Holy crap! Holy crap! Oh my god! Holy crap! Oh, baby, that's so expensive though. Oh my god. Oh, we've got some gathering to do now. Holy snapperoo. I am not gonna be able to make like really any of these. So, needless to say, that puts a massive change in our plans for the last 12 days of this playthrough as I headed home and immediately began gathering fiber, mostly as a test to see if this would even be doable, as I'm gonna need 120,000 fiber, 214,000 hide, 41,000 metal bars, and 90,000 wood if I want to make 18 of these bad boys. So I placed a foundation outside of my base and added the forge from the drop on top of it, and it was off to begin gathering metal. I started things off at one of my usual spots, carrying Spanky around to auto harvest, and then loading it all up on Bosk, who I've been leveling only in weight. With that area bare, I headed out to a nearby mountain to clear it out as well, and once heavy, returned to base to get the first load cooking. But yeah, we've spent about a quarter of our day and only gathered enough for roughly 1,500 bars. Continuing though, I headed to some more metal-rich mountains where a flock of Argents would take exception to me stealing all of their metal and began attacking. I would fend them off with my bow, but in doing so, accidentally put one in Artemis, nearly killing her. With the coast clear, I kept gathering metal when I again realized that I had completely forgotten about the baby Theory I was raising and had to rush home. And yeah, I once again messed up the imprints, and so they also won't be 100% imprinted. While at base, I transferred over all the metal I just gathered from the mountains, but I've been gathering for nearly a full day now, and I've only gathered enough for roughly 4,800 bars between my two forges. So I cryoed up some of my tames to shift focus to another task I needed to get done, starting with gathering more veggies. I returned to base to drop those off, and while here, decided to grind up all of my remaining loot I had at base, which would give me at least a handful of metal to put towards the saddles. As between what I already had at base and what I just grinded, I had about 12.5 thousand, with more cooking. But honestly, the over 200,000 hide was what really had me doubting if this would be doable. So instead, I continued on my other task, now heading for what is considered the redwoods of this map, where using my Theory, I can gather large amounts of sap off of every tree. Before long, I had all of the sap I needed, so it was back to base to begin loading it into the industrial cooker, and then back out for our next task. This time returning to the bee cave, where it would be up to Loki to clear things out. And this time I would harvest the hives with Spanky for the sweet, sweet honey. I returned to base the next morning with the honey, and now had everything needed to begin making some sweet veggie cakes. My new cooking show would run for most of the day, stopping only for a brief commercial break so I could imprint on my babies. And by the time we wrapped filming, I had almost enough cakes to keep even my fat ass fed. With that done, I turned my attention to leveling leveling the few adult Theria I had that would be going into the boss fight, with my initial goal being to take out astral creatures, as each one would give enough levels to get my Theri about where I wanted them. But of course, because I'm looking for them, I couldn't find them anywhere. So instead, I started taking out basically anything and everything, and I think this is a good time to explain that I've never used a Theri for gathering hide. So while I was very intentionally harvesting and keeping the hide off of each kill, I wasn't using the right attack to gather the most possible. This would continue for the rest of the day, stopping at base to drop off what hide I've gathered, as well as to cook up the meat to eventually put on our Daedon. The next day I was back out to level the Theri, and thankfully I would find an Astral Carno to assist me on this task. Despite its best efforts and my male Theri refusing to stick around and help, I would eventually take it down for some sweet levels. But my luck finding astral creatures wouldn't go much further than that, and I spent the rest of the day just taking out anything I could find. This would continue into the next day until my Theri were all around the point that I wanted them. And of course, now that I was done leveling them, I finally spotted another astral creature. So still needing to level Sir Eats-a-Lot, I began ticking away at his health from atop a cliff, until I thought it was weak enough to fight with Sir Eats-a-Lot. But I still needed to weaken it some, and unfortunately in doing so, I would take things a little too far.
Well, darn it. That is not what I was trying to do.
It got enough levels for me to feel good about it though, so it was back to focusing on getting what saddles I could made. I had enough metal for 7 saddles, and we're just gonna go with that. So it was out and about on Lucky to gather the hide I needed, and again, not knowing just how much better the Theri would have been for this. At one point, I would craft some chainsaws to try speeding things up, but while it gathers more, I feel like it takes longer to jump down and gather it. So it was back to using Lucky for the rest of the day. This would continue for all of day 96, as well as day 97, and yeah, really should have used the Theri. It would continue all the way into day 98, and finally, I had enough hide to cover the cost of the 7 saddles. So next was to gather all the fiber I would need, which actually using the Theri for this would make it a walk in the park. I then decided to take a break from all of the gathering and use some of my extra metal to make some more metal arrows. And with all of the metal now cooked, I broke down my forge, as well as some extra metal structures for one last handful of metal, and used that to make up some bullets for my rifle. The next morning, it was out to gather the wood I needed for the saddles, and almost halfway through the day, I was unloading it all and finally crafting the 7 Ascendant saddles. Unfortunately, I would have to craft primitive saddles for the other 11 Theri, but I was short on hide, and so finally convinced by my livestream chat, I headed out on my Theri and used its peck attack, which had me feeling like a real idiot.
Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe I should have been using this guy for hide gathering. Oh my gosh. If I had just been doing this when I was leveling my Theris, I would have already had enough hide.
Regardless of my brain rot, I had enough hide to craft the remaining saddles, and then used what mats I had left to repair my flak armor, and began saddling up all of my already adult Theri. Soon after that, the baby Theri were beginning to finish raising, and I would begin giving them Ascendant saddles, since they won't be leveled much at all.
Oh, you snuck a saddle in, buddy. You took the last saddle, my friend. The rest of you are out of luck.
Next, I grabbed some consumables out of the fridge to help me in the fight, and loaded up Bosk with all of the cooked meat and veggie cakes my other tames will need in the fight. And as day 99 was coming to an end, I was on my way to the terminal to fight the bosses. We arrived at the terminal as it was turning over to day 100, and I would begin unleashing my army, and it was now time to name them. As always, I asked you all for name suggestions, put them on a spin wheel, and this is what was chosen. Theri Trooper, Paws with Claws, Mac DeMarco, Tickle Chicken, the Rizzy No, Hercules, Freddy Krueger, Tucker, Foul Play, Conspiracy Theory, Captain Tickler, Salad Fingers, Claws of Chaos, Big Gordon, Thomas the Absolute Milk Drinker, Octopus, Theory Scissorhands, and Zidane. And so with them named, I began loading them all up with an even split of veggie cakes, but the naming process actually took a very long time, and it was now about to be day 101. But look, we were here ready to fight on day 100, so I'm counting it. So as day 101 started, I was all ready to fight our first boss. There was just one little problem.
Oh my gosh, I forgot the frickin' artifacts. I always do this. You guys know this about me. If you don't, now you do. I always forget to bring the flippin' artifacts. Oh my gosh, dude.
So I ran back home as quickly as I could, grabbed the artifacts I would need, and it was back to try again. This is going to be a pretty standard boss fight as we use our Daedon to heal and our Yudi to keep all of our Theri buff while they do all of the fighting with Thode. Now he does have one unique thing about him. If you don't shoot him in the face at all, your Theri are going to do basically no damage, so you actually have to hop off and put some shots on his face to send him into a different state where you can do damage to him basically. But you have to be careful because he also has a spin attack that if you're not on your mount when he does it, it can really mess you up.
Here we go. There he is, squad. You guys coming? Get him. Get him. Should have probably been buffing them before they even walked down. All right, get in there, guys. What are y'all doing? As soon as he does his next spin, I'm gonna shoot him. All right. Why is he running away? What are we doing here? Oh, he's attacking me. Hey, he's attacking me. Leave me alone. They're not doing much damage because I'm not getting the shots in the head. This is actually going terribly. He chose... Okay, here we go. There we go. Now wait for him to do his spin again. There we go. Now I get off. There we go. Get repositioned to get in a better shot of his face. Oh, I should have... Why is it not reloading? Oh, it was reloading. It just wasn't doing the animation. Keep them buffed. Keep them buffed. Come on, guys. Climb that rock and get in there. All right, there's that. Jump off. Put some shots on. Okay, I'm not getting his head somehow. I've literally got Shadow Stake and I'm still inaccurate. Reload animation's not happening. There we go. Get him, guys. Come on. We can do this, guys. We can do this. Come on, guys. Come on. We got him. We got him. Take him down. Take him down. Let's go. Easy. 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 Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Too easy, folks. What's that? What is that? Well, that was easy. That was easy. Gamma's nothing. Go work, Theries. I don't want to know what kind of damage y'all have got going for you, though, because I'm sure you're pretty beat up. Oh, this one's... Whoa, this one's not even damaged. My dude. My dudes are absolute units. Oh, wow. That guy was tanking. Zidane, the boss was tanking. The big dog. I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't know if we were even gonna be able to do any of these bosses on Gamma, considering that a good portion of my Theory army is completely unleveled and are using primitive saddles. I thought for sure they were going to be doomed, but they did it. They took down the first boss fairly easily with really none of them taking that much damage at all, and it was on to the next boss. But first, I set up Sir Itzala to continue healing some of my damaged Theory, and while he was doing that, I returned home to grab some more soup to keep me cool in this armor, as well as some cactus broth that'll be handy for the next fight. I also got some more cooked meat for the pig, of course the artifacts because who forgets those, and some more weapons and ammo as I'll be assisting in this next fight. It would take me some time to get things set back up and to let Sir Itzala heal everyone, but eventually it was time to take on Medusa. This fight again will be pretty straightforward, just having our Tamed fighter head on, and in between UD roars we're going to use our weapons to hopefully help take her down. Alright, come on guys. There they go. Sir Itzala getting caught on me, but he's following behind. Please don't get stuck, Theries. Octopus, what you doing, brother? All right, they're getting in there. Oh, they're kind of actually putting her down. We're gonna help. We're gonna help. We're gonna help. Machine gun fire to the face. Keep them buffed. Keep them buffed. Switch with the bow. Legolas. Missed. Are we about to do this? If we start losing them, then we're not gonna do it, but so far we're good. I can't tell their health, obviously. I wish it was like WoW where you had like, someone should make a mod where you can see like your Tame's health. Oh, I got stunned. She stunned me. She's trying to turn me to stone. Yo, these aren't even leveled Theries. I haven't even leveled half of these. I mean, we could like, we could start losing all of them right now though. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But I haven't even leveled these Theries and they are just mowing her down right now. I mean, a few of them are leveled, but most of them are not leveled. All right, that's gonna be it. Wow. We did it. I didn't think we were gonna do this. I thought we wouldn't be able to beat her. They aren't even leveled. I mean, they have ascendant saddles, some of them, but okay, well, that's that. We have another boss to fight though. So guys, don't leave yet because there is one more boss for us to fight still. I'm not gonna lie, I am actually really surprised that these Theory were able to take her down. Obviously, this was only on Gamma, but still, these guys are basically fresh out of the egg. We did it though, and back home, I crafted up some trophy mounts and proudly displayed both boss trophies on the front of our house. But before we end this video, there is one last thing I needed to settle. One last foe I needed to vanquish if I was ever going to sleep peacefully again, free of the nightmares that have haunted me since early in this playthrough. Get it, boys! Yeah, so apparently they patched the Ovis at some point and made him much weaker, which, to be honest, is kind of a disappointment. Well, that is just so sad, actually. I really wanted this to actually be a fight. Like, I actually wanted to have my Theories potentially even die at that thing's hands. But Wildcard, you just can't let me have any fun. You always got to do something to mess up my fun. And now they're just gathering a bunch of freaking flowers. They're just going flower picking now instead of having an epic fight with that sheep that yeeted us off the cliff on like day 50.
But there you have it, folks. That is my 100 days journey here on Astraeos. I really enjoyed this map, and I'm really excited to see what they do with it in the future. I hope you all enjoyed the video, the builds, and the journey. If you did, please don't forget to drop it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. With all that said, I just want to tell you all thank you so much for being here today, checking out this video, and don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using my link in the description or pinned comment, or by simply scanning the QR code on your screen. And until next time, keep it crispy.